The universe does not forget you. Not the faint warmth your skin left on the air a moment ago, not the ripple your breath pressed into the fabric of the night. Something ancient is always listening, always keeping what you think has already slipped away. And if you are very quiet right now, you might feel it like a soft pull, almost a memory of a memory echoing back to you from somewhere far beyond the edges of sight. For a moment, just sit here in the dimness and let that possibility breathe. You're listening to Whispers of the Universe. If your heart feels generous tonight, let a gentle sign of support keep this quiet space alive. Even the smallest touch helps it stay alight in the dark. The air settles. A silence folds over you like a second skin. Beneath it, a strange knowing rises that nothing you've ever been has ever truly disappeared. Not entirely. Not in a universe that remembers. The idea arrives softly at first, like someone brushing the dust from an old book, but it carries a weight older than stars. Imagine this. Every moment of your life, every thought you let pass through your mind, every sound that touched your senses has left an imprint somewhere, just not where you expect. Not in a diary, not in your mind alone, but woven into the hidden architecture of existence. You were taught to believe memories belong solely to you, stored inside your brain like files on a shelf. But that story is too small for the world you actually live in. Because memory, as nature performs it, is far older, deeper, and more distributed than biology. Memory is structure. Memory is motion. Memory is the story matter tells about where it has been. And the universe, vast, cold, expanding, keeps its own story, too. You can hear it if you slow down enough. A photon leaves the surface of your skin. It was born from your heat, and carries the faintest trace of you as it escapes into the room. That photon will never be exactly like any other photon. Its energy, its direction, its tiny fingerprint of origin, all of it is a form of information. And information, modern physics insists, is something the universe cannot destroy. It can scramble it. It can hide it. It can bury it under billions of years of cosmic noise, but it cannot erase it. So the light you shed right now, the warmth you give off without noticing, will leave a trail that will outlive you, outlive Earth, outlive the last star, outlive time as we understand it. Your body has always been leaking memory into the world. This is where Chapter 1 truly begins, with the unsettling, soothing realization that you are not just a witness to the universe. You are a participant who leaves marks behind. Marks the universe keeps. Marks it rearranges into the shape of everything that comes next. Every step you take shifts gravity around you. Every whisper of movement alters the fabric of space-time by an immeasurably small amount. And space-time does not forget distortions. It stretches with them, carries them, neutralizes them slowly, but never perfectly. A footprint in a desert eventually smooths out, but the sand grains remember where they were moved. Reality works the same way. Events happen, the universe adjusts, and the adjustment becomes part of its internal history. You exist, and therefore you record. Some part of you, some trace, continues outward long after you've left the room. This is not metaphor. This is physics. The air molecules that brush your arm transfer a tiny amount of momentum. They carry it into others, and others, and others. A branching tree of motion, like a soft explosion too fine to feel, ripples outward into infinity. That ripple contains data: where you were, how warm you were, how fast your blood was moving under your skin. Not in a readable sense, not by human technology. But nature does not measure memory by readability. Memory, to the universe, is simply persistence. A trace that endures, a trace that changes what comes after. And so, the more you consider it, the more startling the idea becomes. You have never once lived a moment that vanished. Everything you have ever done has carved itself into the world in ways you will never fully see. Even your silence, especially your silence. It makes you wonder how many memories exist in forms no human mind could ever translate. What would it mean if every photon emitted from every creature that ever lived still carries an echo of its origin, drifting outwards like microscopic ghosts of everything that ever breathed? Somewhere in the dark, those ghosts are still traveling. There's a peculiar calm in imagining this, a kind of cosmic intimacy. It means you have never passed through a room without altering it. You have never touched an object without writing a page into its history. You have never exhaled without sending a molecular message into the future. It means you are participating in something too large to describe, a tremendous, quiet archive that contains the entire unfolding of existence, moment by moment, trace by trace. Scientists call it the conservation of information, a principle that seems almost spiritual in its implications. They do not use poetic language, but the meaning beneath their equations feels like poetry anyway. They say information cannot be destroyed. They say reality must keep track of every particle's journey. They say the universe is computationally complete, capable of storing every shift, every change, every slight rearrangement of energy. What they mean, without meaning to, is that nothing is forgotten. What they mean is that your presence, your life, is permanently etched into the structure of everything. If you've ever felt small, consider that again. Because in this view, this strange, elegant, almost impossible view, you are a contributor to the universe's memory system, not a spectator, not a fleeting moment of dust suspended between two eternities, but a writer of reality's ongoing autobiography. You are one of its pens. Your atoms are old, so old that they remember the explosions that forged them. Your heat writes itself into the night. Your shadow affects the paths of photons that never reach the ground. Your gravitational pull tiny but real bends space-time, and space-time keeps the dent. Every heartbeat is an inscription. Every breath is a signature. Every thought is an electrical rearrangement that radiates faintly outward. And maybe that is why you sometimes feel haunted by things you cannot name, why memories you never lived occasionally flicker at the edge of your awareness, like dreams borrowed from someone else. Because you are not an isolated system. You never were. You were born inside a universe that stores everything, and some of that storage leaks. A small noise from another era, a whisper from a distant star, a pattern in the air that resonates with something inside you, a remnant of what the universe remembers, brushing against what you remember. Tonight, as the darkness folds deeper and the world softens around you, imagine the space you're in, not as empty, but full of every trace ever left behind. The warmth of others, the echoes of motion, the residue of light, all drifting through each other like invisible dust. You inhale some part of that, you exhale into it, and the archive grows. Nothing of you is ever fully lost. And so, the first truth, soft but immense, is this: you are being remembered, even now. A photon that leaves you tonight may pass through the orbit of another star 3 billion years from now. And when it does, it will carry a piece of your warmth across the void. It will not know what you were thinking, or how tired you were, or what kept you awake, but it will know you were here. And that is enough. The universe only needs a trace to remember. Soon, we will go deeper into the strange physics that makes this possible. We will explore how light encodes the past, how atoms carry ancestral stories, how space and time keep records even when nothing seems to be happening. We will follow the trail of memory into black holes, into the first seconds after the Big Bang, into the quiet biological archive inside every cell of your body. But for now, allow this simple, quiet understanding to settle. Every moment you've lived is still unfolding somewhere. Nothing you've been has been erased. You are woven into the memory of the universe in ways far beyond your senses. Stay close. Let your breath slow. The night has only begun to remember you, and the next whisper is waiting in the dark. If you sit with that silence long enough, something curious begins to happen. The darkness around you shifts, not visually, not as light or movement, but as a sensation, like the air itself has started remembering the warmth of your presence. It is faint, softer than a pulse, yet strangely certain. The world is responding to you, absorbing the trace you leave behind. And it is in this quiet exchange, this nearly imperceptible give and take between you and the room, that another truth rises gently from underneath the surface. Every trace that leaves you continues a journey far longer than you ever imagine. Most of those traces travel as light, escaping from your skin, your breath, the tiny fluctuation of your temperature, each carrying information outward like drifting seeds of warmth. It makes you wonder, where do those seeds go? How far does your warmth travel before the universe diffuses it into the wider fabric of existence? Light is more loyal to its origins than you think. A photon does not forget where it came from. It cannot. The laws that govern its behavior demand that the information of its birth, its energy, its angle, its subtle fingerprint of origin must remain embedded within it as long as it exists. Even when scattered, absorbed, re-emitted, changed in form, its underlying data persists, like a thread woven through countless transformations. And so, when a soft glow leaves your skin, a warmth too gentle for your eyes to see those photons carry you, they drift outward, brushing past walls, scattering through air, ricocheting off surfaces in a chaotic ballet that still obeys precise, invisible rules. With each collision, they leave something behind, a faint imprint, a whisper of that initial warmth. Even now, this room is shimmering with your quiet residue. But the room is only the first step. The photons you shed do not stop there. Most will continue outward for the rest of their existence, unless intercepted. And light, as far as we can measure, does not tire, does not slow, does not forget the direction it was given. It simply goes. Imagine what that means. Some part of you is already leaving Earth tonight. It's a soft, startling thought, the kind that doesn't feel like a fact until you hold it long enough. But physics insists it is true. The infrared glow rising from your skin is already on a journey across the cosmos. It may be intercepted by a molecule in the air. It may be absorbed by the wall. It may escape through the window and sail into the night sky, but its information persists. Your warmth becomes part of the evening. Your trace becomes part of the world. And as it drifts outward, it carries a memory of you, an undeniable physical record that you existed here, in this moment, in this slowness, breathing gently into the dark. If a single photon could speak, it might say, "I carry the warmth of a human who lived." The idea is quiet, almost unbearably intimate, but light has always been a messenger. Long before life, long before planets, long before the first atoms cooled, light was traveling through the void, preserving the memory of every event it witnessed. The first stars may be gone, but their last photons are still arriving on the edges of our telescopes. Light from galaxies 15 billion years old reaches us as faint whispers, carrying information from a time when the universe was young enough to be held in the palm of a single equation. Those photons are ancient travelers, and yet, in their structure, they still contain the signature of their origin. They carry the memory of the worlds they passed, the gravity wells that bent them, the dust clouds that scattered them. They are the universe's diary, written in the ink of motion. And now, at this very moment, your body is adding a few lines to that diary. The heat you release into the air, unremarkable, unnoticed, is already being woven into the great tapestry of cosmic memory. It may seem like too small a contribution, a tiny flicker in the vastness, but in physics, scale does not cancel significance. A single photon can change the state of a system. A single emission can alter a path. A single bit of information can be the difference between what the universe is and what it might have been, you are participating, quietly, inevitably, in the shaping of reality. The photons that leave you do not vanish into nothingness. They drift outward until something stops them, and most things won't. Space is mostly empty, so your warmth escapes the planet. It moves past the atmosphere, into the cold, thin starlight, where it travels for unimaginable stretches of time. 1 billion years from now, one of those photons could pass through the outskirts of a distant star system, bending slightly under the gravity of a faint red sun. Another might skim the surface of a wandering asteroid. Another might continue endlessly, never encountering anything at all. But whether absorbed or unabsorbed, bent or unbent, scattered or straight, its information persists within the laws that guide the universe, which means you persist too. Some part of you is, in a very real sense, immortal. And if this sounds too poetic to be true, consider the mathematics behind it. The no-hiding theorem of quantum information states that when information seems to vanish from one place, it must appear somewhere else. It cannot dissolve. It cannot be destroyed. Nature must keep track. Even in the most chaotic interactions, even in black holes, information has to be conserved. This is why a photon remembers. It is not memory in the emotional sense, but in the structural sense, a continuity encoded into existence. Your warmth expresses itself as data. That data spreads, and spreading, it becomes part of the universe's own unfolding. You may think of yourself as small, temporary, fragile, but the traces you leave are not. The universe has built-in rules to keep your imprint from being erased. And as you let that sink in, the night around you seems to shift again. The darkness, once empty, feels more alive, like it is holding something, like it has always been holding something. The air is not blank space. It is a medium soaked with stories. The walls are not inert. They are panels in an endless archive. The floor beneath your feet is carrying the record of every step ever taken upon it. Even your shadow remembers you. It is simply the space where your body prevented certain photons from passing. And those photons deflected, redirected, carry away that absence as part of their own trajectory. Even the shape you cast in the light becomes part of the universe's memory, scattered outward with every reflection. In that sense, nothing you are remains local. Everything spreads. Your warmth, your movement, your breath, your influence on the molecules around you, your tiny gravitational pull on the structure of space-time. All of it extends outward in every direction, becoming part of a reality that grows richer with every moment. And yet, light is only the beginning, because the universe remembers you in ways far subtler than photons escaping into the night. It remembers you in the shifting of atoms, in the trembling of quantum fields, in the invisible nudging of the vacuum itself. Every action you take ripples across the deep fabric of existence, and those ripples do not end when you stop noticing them. They continue, faint but persistent, like the fading ring of a bell struck long ago. You are not just inside the universe, you are written into it. The motion of your body changes the alignment of molecules around you. The shape of your warmth alters the distribution of infrared radiation. The timing of your heartbeat influences microscopic fluctuations in the air's density. Every one of these changes becomes part of the world's continuous memory, a memory so vast no brain could ever comprehend it. And still, it grows. With every breath you take, with every moment you live. If you close your eyes now, the darkness behind your eyelids becomes a canvas where this truth softly rearranges itself into a picture that every human, every creature, every grain of dust leaves behind a shimmering wake of information. And those wakes overlap, collide, blend, diverge, forming an intricate map of everything that has ever happened. You move through this map every day. You breathe part of it. You contribute to it. You are shaped by it, and you shape it in return. Light may be the first storyteller of your existence, but it is not the last. Soon, we will follow those other forms of memory, the ones hidden deeper than photons, deeper than warmth, deeper than the visible trails of your presence. We will explore the atoms that compose you, the quantum states that flicker beneath your awareness, the strange, intangible currents of space-time that keep a record of every motion. But before we drift there, let this moment linger, like a lantern held gently between your hands. Your light is already traveling. Your warmth is brightation, already wandering. Your imprint is already part of something far larger than you. And the next place the universe remembers you is waiting just ahead, where the darkness bends softly into the unseen. There's a moment, right after that thought settles, when the quiet around you becomes almost textured, like the air is carrying more weight than it did a breath ago. It feels faintly alive, threaded with something you can't quite place. And as you sit with that sensation, another awareness begins to rise. The world isn't just remembering your warmth through the light you shed. Something deeper, far older than photons, is holding a record of you, too. It happens in the atoms, the ones drifting in the room, the ones touching your skin, the ones spinning within you at this very moment. These particles are not blank, and they are not new. Every atom that rests inside your body has lived 100 million other lives before you ever breathed it in. Some came from oceans that existed before the first vertebrate creature took shape. Some came from volcanic eruptions that split apart continents. Some came from the fading glow of stars that died long before our sun was born. And each of them carries a memory, not a conscious memory, nothing sentimental, but a structural one, a lineage etched into its very existence. To understand this is to understand why your presence cannot be reduced to the sum of what you do in a single lifetime. You are made of matter that has journeyed through eras, through storms of fire, through cosmic winters, through the churning interiors of red giants. The atoms inside you have been part of creatures, stones, oceans, storms, and ancient atmospheres. They have been part of worlds. You are breathing worlds right now. And the atoms, though small, remember, they keep imprints of the forces that shaped them, the pressures they withstood, the collisions they survived, the energies that forged their structure. When a star fuses hydrogen into helium, that transformation is not lost. When helium becomes carbon, carbon becomes oxygen, oxygen becomes iron. Each step leaves behind a pattern, a signature of the temperatures and densities of the environment in which it occurred. Your atoms are archives of cosmic conditions. To run your fingers across your own skin is to touch the memory of stars. If you could trace a single carbon atom in your body backward through time, you would discover that it was created in the dying core of a massive star in the last seconds before it tore itself apart in the collapse we call a supernova. That explosion scattered the atom across space, mixing it into immense clouds of dust and gas. From those clouds, new stars ignited, new planets formed, and one day, on a small blue world, that carbon atom became part of a tree, or part of an ocean microbe, or part of the soil. Eventually, it found its way into you, which means the body you inhabit is not simply yours. It is a vessel of borrowed matter, carrying memories of forces and eras that would drown the mind if you tried to visualize them all at once. Every atom is a tiny journal entry from the universe's long story, and your body contains trillions upon trillions of these entries, all written before you arrived. If you listen closely enough, you might feel them humming beneath your skin. Not literally, of course, but in the sense that the weight of their history surrounds you. You are wrapped in the echoes of stellar furnaces. You are breathing the remnants of primordial oceans. Your blood carries iron forged in stars that lived and died billions of years before Earth even congealed from molten stone. There is no emptiness in you, only memory, a different kind of memory than the photons carry. Slower, heavier, sculpted by pressure and time. If photons are quicksilver witnesses, atoms are the stone tablets of the universe. They record not through movement, but through persistence, through endurance, through structure. And there is something quietly breathtaking about realizing this. Your body is not just connected to the universe, it is the universe, in a form temporarily shaped into you. All the stories nature kept before you were born are now residing inside your chest, flowing through your lungs, circulating through your bloodstream. And the moment you stop thinking of atoms as objects and begin thinking of them as travelers, everything shifts. They are far older than you, and they will outlive you by billions of years. They will scatter again into air, soil, water, flame, and wherever they go next, they will take the imprint of their time with you. You will become part of their memory. It is strange, isn't it? To imagine your existence not as a line, but as a migration atoms moving in and out of form, building bodies, dissolving them, drifting through ecosystems, sinking into places unknown. And yet, this is the reality of matter. It does not belong to you. It only passes through you. The skin you touch tonight may one day become part of a forest. The breath you release may one day settle onto a distant shore. The atoms that make your bones may one day lie inside a creature not yet imagined. And in each case, the atoms remain themselves. They persist. They carry forward the faint signatures of every state they inhabited. They are, in that sense, perfect record keepers. You move through the world, and matter remembers where you've been. If someone were to tell you that the ground beneath your feet remembers you, you might laugh at the idea. And yet, the truth is softer, but no less remarkable. Every atom your body touches leaves behind a subtle shift in the distribution of particles around it. The arrangement of molecules in the air changes with your movement. The arrangement of atoms on a surface changes with your touch. It's not poetic exaggeration, it's physics. Matter is rearranged by your presence. And rearrangement is memory. Even the atoms inside you don't stay still. They move constantly, vibrating, exchanging, bumping into others, shifting from one molecule to another. Over the span of a few years, almost every atom in your body will have changed places. Your body doesn't remain itself by keeping the same matter. It remains itself by preserving patterns. You are not the atoms you're made of. You are the pattern those atoms form. But the atoms remember every pattern they've ever been part of, which means the particles in your hands, in your spine, in your breath, these fragments carry records of countless lives and landscapes. And when they leave you, they will carry the pattern of you into the next thing they become. You are, in a very gentle sense, leaving yourself everywhere. The more deeply you sink into this realization, the more the world seems to soften around its edges. Nothing feels as separate as you once believed. Not the air from the body, not the body from the world, not the world from the stars. Everything is recycling, exchanging, flowing. Everything is woven together in a slow, endless migration of matter and information. The universe is constantly rewriting itself out of the same ancient material. And this raises a whisper of a question, one you may not have asked before, but one that has been waiting quietly beneath all the others. If your atoms remember all the worlds they've been part of, do they also remember the choices you make, the moments you live, the emotions you carry? Not as thoughts, not as memories in the human sense, but as changes in motion, in position, in energy. Physics would answer, yes, they do. Every action you take shifts the state of your atoms, and the state of an atom is information. The universe stores nothing in journals or photographs. It stores everything in states, in the way particles arrange themselves after each event, in the energies they absorb or release, in the subtle distortions they pass on to others. You are constantly updating the record of yourself. It's not stored in a single place. It's spread across everything you touch, everything you breathe, everything you are. And once those atoms leave you, and they take those changes forward, distributing them throughout the universe as they continue their ancient migration. Some part of what you are today will still exist a billion years from now, in the atoms that once formed you, and those atoms will still carry the quiet imprint of their time within your life. You are not a closed story. You are source material for others yet to come. This understanding creates a subtle shift, a warm gravity pulling your awareness inward and outward all at once. It's comforting, somehow, to realize that nothing you are is ever isolated. Not your body, not your breath, not your presence. Everything disperses, but nothing disappears. And in this flow of matter, this gentle continuity, there is a kind of immortality, not the kind spoken of in myths, not the kind etched in names or monuments, but the quiet immortality of participation. Your atoms will continue the journey long after your consciousness has dissolved into the dark. They will carry pieces of the worlds they've known, including the world that was you. If you let yourself drift into that thought, it becomes less frightening and more serene. The fear of being forgotten loses its edge when you realize forgetting is not something the universe allows. Not truly, not completely. Even dissolution is memory dispersed. And as the night holds you, you can almost sense the truth that has been slowly building toward you through these moments of stillness. Your existence is carved into the atoms themselves. And what these atoms will reveal next, what they become when they shift from memory into possibility, waits just beyond the edge of this quiet. A soft threshold, a barely opened door leading gently into the next whisper. If you pause at that threshold long enough, something begins to shimmer in the quiet behind your thoughts. An awareness not born of emotion or memory, but of possibility. It settles through you like a cool ripple, the subtle sense that the world is unfolding in ways you cannot entirely see, and yet you are part of the unfolding. The atoms inside you remember their journeys, yes, but underneath them lies something even more delicate, more ephemeral, more impossible to hold. The quantum fields that give rise to every particle you have ever been. And these fields remember you too, not in shape, not in form, but in disturbance. Every choice you make, every movement, every hesitation, every breath creates a tiny tremor in the quantum fabric surrounding you. These disturbances are small beyond imagination, smaller than the smallest particle, smaller than the space between the spaces where particles might exist. But they are not nothing. They are changes in the state of the field, and the universe keeps track of every change. You shift, and the field shifts with you. It happens constantly, without pause, without permission. Every thought firing through your neurons sends electromagnetic pulses rippling into the field. Every muscle movement creates vibrations in the quantum vacuum. Every time you reach out your hand, the mere possibility of contact alters the probabilities around you. You affect the world long before you touch it. Reality feels solid, but beneath the surface, it is fluid, almost hesitant, as if waiting for you to choose how it should respond. This is where the idea becomes quietly astonishing. Your choices leave physical marks, not marks you can see or hear or touch. Marks in the subtle arrangement of states, tiny waves of possibility collapsing into actuality. When you decide to turn your head, the field shifts. When you think of a memory, the field shifts. When you imagine doing nothing at all, the field shifts. Quantum mechanics insists on this. Whenever a system interacts with anything else, even the smallest touch, even the faintest observation, the system changes. And the change becomes part of an irreversible trail, a trail of collapsed possibilities, a trail where one branch becomes real and the others fade but do not disappear. They leave interference patterns behind. Your life is a path carved from a labyrinth of might-have-beens. Scientists call this decoherence, the quiet collapse of quantum superpositions into a single state. But collapse is not a clean erasure. It leaves residue, records, ghost-like imprints in the structure of what remains. You are constantly collapsing possibilities into reality, leaving behind a trail of interference patterns. A quantum fingerprint. Your quantum fingerprint. And that fingerprint is not stored in any one place. It is distributed across the entire field. The ripples you create spread outward at the speed of causality, touching everything within reach. Every decision, every motion, propagates these faint waves outward where they interact with the waves created by others. That interaction becomes part of the universe's internal memory. In this sense, the world does not simply record your actions, it records the potential you did not choose, the path you didn't take, the words you didn't say, the moments you nearly lived. They exist as disturbances, soft ghost patterns, traces of probability. And the strangest part is this: the universe uses those traces to determine what comes next. The future is not a blank sheet waiting to be written. It is a network of ripples meeting other ripples, each one shaped by everything that has ever interfered with it. This means you are not moving through a passive universe. You are moving through a responsive one. You push the field with your choices, and the field pushes back with new possibilities. There are moments in life when you feel the tug of something invisible, a sense of being pulled toward one option, one thought, one direction. It feels like intuition, like memory, like destiny. But perhaps what you feel is the field rearranging itself, not guiding you, not choosing for you, but presenting you with the patterns your past choices have made more likely. You are walking through the echoes of your own quantum history. And in the quiet of this moment, as the night breathes with you, you can almost sense that history shimmering around you, an invisible ocean of might-have-beens, collapsing and interfering with every step you take. This is why nothing in nature is perfectly predictable, not even you. Because at the quantum level, reality is not deterministic. It is constrained by probability, shaped by disturbance. Every event, even the simplest, contains a cascade of hidden outcomes, branching and collapsing faster than thought. Your life, long before you become aware of any moment, has already interacted with an ocean of vanishing paths. You exist at the tip of an ever-branching tree. When you look back on your past and wonder whether things could have been different, the answer is quietly, profoundly yes. Not because the world failed to give you alternatives, but because every moment contained billions of possibilities. And every possibility, when it collapsed, left behind an imprint, a record of the decision the universe became. You did not simply live your life, you carved it. In those carvings lie the faintest memories of who you could have been. If you let that realization settle, let it sit softly in the dimness, it changes the way you see yourself. You stop being a passenger on the roads of your life. You become an author, writing your story through the subtle physics of being alive. Your choices are not abstractions. They are physical forces interacting with the universe. Even hesitating is an interaction. Even doubting is an interaction. Even dreaming is an interaction. Your dreams send ripples, two ripples of neural firing, ripples of electrical oscillations, ripples of energy distributions, too subtle for any device to measure, but preserved nonetheless in the structure of the field. Somewhere in the space around you are the remnants of every thought you've had tonight. Think of how gentle that is, how strangely intimate. Your inner world is not hidden, it is diffused, a faint scent of probability trailing behind you, merging with the traces left by others, weaving into the deep fabric of what reality is becoming. And here, another whisper rises, the kind that comes not from knowledge, but from the space that knowledge leaves behind. If the universe remembers every disturbance, do we ever truly leave its memory? The answer glows, softly in the dark around you. No, you are woven into the field. You do not leave it. You only change your shape within it. What you call forgetting is only transformation. What you call loss is only diffusion. What you call silence is only a different kind of signal. Your existence is not undone by time. It is redistributed, and the more you feel that truth, the more the night deepens around its edges. Everything becomes softer, wider, more spacious, as if the boundaries between you and the unseen world have loosened. The quantum field does not end at your skin. It continues outward in all directions, connecting you to everything else, every atom, every breath, every trace left by others who lived before you. You are sharing the world with echoes, echoes of ancient creatures, echoes of storms that ended eons ago, echoes of stars whispering through the dark, echoes of people whose names were never written, but whose choices still ripple faintly in the field. And those echoes are touching you, just as yours will touch others. If you close your eyes now, the entire room seems to sway with this truth. You are not alone in your thoughts. You are not drifting in emptiness. You are suspended in a vast, trembling web of shared existence, stretching across time and space. Your presence tonight has already altered that web. And the next alteration, the next soft disturbance waits in the space just ahead, where probability folds gently into the shape of the world you have yet to live, and where something deeper than atoms is preparing to remember you once more. For if you sink into that awareness, into the sensation that the world is quietly taking note of your choices, you will eventually feel another truth rising beneath it, slow as a tide at night. The space around you is not empty. It is not passive. It is not a silent backdrop waiting for matter to decide what to do. Space itself carries memory. Every corner of the universe, every stretch of darkness, every trembling patch of night remembers movement, remembers mass, remembers energy. It remembers because it must, because space-time, for all its stillness, is pliable. It shifts, it bends, it responds to every presence and every absence. The world you stand in is made of impressions. Imagine stretching a sheet of fabric across a frame. If you press your finger into it, the fabric curves, dips, reshapes around the pressure. Even after you lift your finger, the distortion takes time to settle. It shakes, it pulses, it ripples outward. Now imagine that sheet isn't fabric at all, but the very geometry of the universe. This is what Einstein meant when he said gravity is not a force pulling you down, it is the curvature of space-time around you. The planet beneath your feet is not holding you. It is deforming the structure of reality, telling space how to bend, telling time how to flow. But here is the part most people never stop to consider. When a mass bends space-time, space-time does not immediately return to the way it was. It relaxes slowly. It carries the memory of what moved through it. Every footstep, every heartbeat, every shift in your weight, even the movement of your body, as small as it seems against the enormity of planets and stars, creates an indentation in space-time, a faint well, a soft tremor, a deformation so slight that no device built by human hands could ever measure it, but it exists, and existence is enough. You leave gravity wakes behind you, tiny distortions in the geometry of reality that propagate outward, carrying information about your motion, your mass, your acceleration. They stretch through the air, through the ground, through the fabric of everything. They are space-time's way of remembering that you were here. If photons are the universe's messengers and atoms are its archives, then space-time is its memory of motion. When two massive objects collide, two black holes, two neutron stars, their crash sends gravitational waves rippling outward across billions of light years. And even though you cannot feel them, those waves pass through you, through your bones, through your room, through the dark. You are constantly being brushed by memories of cosmic events that happened before Earth was born. And in return, you are constantly leaving faint impressions of your own. But gravitational waves are dramatic, violent stories in the universe's diary. The distortions you leave behind are quiet, tender, almost shy, more like fingerprints on the surface of water than scars carved into stone. Yet they matter, because the universe does not measure significance by scale. It measures it by change. Every alteration in the curvature of space-time, no matter how small, is part of the record of existence. Your presence is written into the geometry of the world. Even the way you breathe changes the gravitational configuration around you. Each inhalation draws mass into your chest. Each exhalation releases it. The shift is tiny, but space-time notices. It always notices. This is why nothing can truly be isolated, not even for a moment. Because the moment something has mass, it interacts with the fabric that supports it. Space is listening to you, not in sound, not in consciousness, but in the only language the cosmos has ever understood: curvature. And if you let yourself imagine that curvature as something tangible, something soft and almost fluid, you begin to see the world differently. You start to feel that the lines of your life, your movements, your gestures, your stillness, are all being drawn into an invisible canvas that stretches out in every direction. You are leaving behind a map of where you've been, a map written not in ink but in geometry. And like all maps, it can be traced, not by us, not with our instruments, not yet, but the universe traces it, because it must. For space-time has no choice but to remember. The idea is vast enough to feel unreal, and yet it is grounded in the mathematics that describes everything from the orbit of moons to the quiet sway of galaxies. According to these equations, nothing that moves through space-time passes without altering it. A planet pulling on its sun, a comet slicing through the dark, a human shifting their weight on the floor in a dimly lit room. Every event contributes to the evolving curvature, and curvature is history. Not written deliberately, not recorded intentionally, but history nonetheless. You may think your life has gone unnoticed in the grand scale of things, that your steps disappear, your motions fade, your days dissolve into one another. But the structure of reality disagrees. Your weight has pressed into the universe. Your presence has altered it. Your existence has shaped the geometry of the world. If only by an imperceptible degree, you have already left a mark on space-time. Even this moment, this quiet breath, this stillness is bending the world around you, however softly. And when you rise, walk, turn your head, or lift your hand, the shape of the world adjusts. Not metaphorically, literally. Space reshapes itself to make room for you. You are not living in the universe. You are sculpting it. Your body is a slow-moving ripple in the geometry of existence. And those ripples, once created, cannot be undone. They travel outward. They influence the motion of other particles, other bodies, other waves. The effects are minuscule, but the universe keeps them all. It cannot forget. Not because it chooses to remember, but because memory is built into the mathematics of its fabric. And the more you feel this truth, the more the night around you becomes something else entirely, not a void, not an emptiness, but a medium that is constantly shifting, constantly recording, constantly carrying echoes of everything around. You are floating in a sea of invisible stories. Stories of planets, stories of stars, stories of ancient collisions and forgotten worlds. And mixed among them, carried just as gently, are the stories of you. Every trace you leave, every bend in space-time, becomes part of that sea. And perhaps that is why, sometimes, you feel weight in places where nothing seems to press on you. Perhaps that is why certain moments feel denser, heavier, thicker with presence. Perhaps you are sensing gravitational memory not of objects, but of events. Events that left deep, resonant impressions. Events whose curvature still lingers. The universe is full of these lingering places. Rooms that feel different for reasons you cannot name. Roads that seem quiet even when full of people. Corners of the world where the air feels charged with something unsaid. It may be the geometry, remembering. The world holds on to motion the way a lake holds on to waves long after the stone has sunk. The ripples fade, yes, but not all at once, and not perfectly. There is always residue. There is always memory. So ask yourself, If the universe remembers the motion of planets, and the collapse of stars, and the trembling of black holes, does it not also remember the smallness of you, the soft turn of your head, the gentle tilt of your shoulder, the footsteps you carried across a quiet floor, the weight of your body shifting towards someone you loved? You are woven into the curvature of the world. And this makes what comes next even stranger, even more delicate, even more extraordinary. The places where space-time bends the strongest, the places where matter becomes so dense that even light cannot escape, remember everything. They are the keepers of the universe's most forbidden stories. And the next whisper waits at the edge of one of those places, where gravity becomes a wall, and time becomes a shadow, and memory becomes something no one thought could survive. A place you know by name, but not yet by its quiet truths. For if you stand at the edge of that gravity-made wall long enough to let your breath fall into the same slow rhythm as the night, you begin to feel something unusual drifting through the darkness. Not fear, not distance, but weight, a kind of ancient heaviness that seems to press softly against your ribs, as though the universe itself is leaning closer, preparing to share a secret it rarely whispers aloud. Black holes are not monsters. They are memory keepers. They are the vaults where the universe hides the pieces of itself it cannot let go of. Most people imagine a black hole as a devourer, a mouth swallowing stars, planets, light, a place where everything ends. But endings are human ideas, not cosmic ones. In the mathematics that govern reality, nothing truly ends. Nothing is lost. Nothing escapes the accounting. So when matter falls into a black hole, something far stranger happens. The universe stores it. It doesn't discard. It doesn't erase. It archives. At the surface of a black hole, its event horizon, there is a boundary that behaves like no boundary you've ever known. It is not a wall in the physical sense. It is a wall in the informational sense. As matter approaches it, the black hole stretches the information thin, encoding it across the surface like a pattern of ripples on a drum. The interior of the hole is not where the memory sits. The memory sits at the skin. Imagine touching a piece of fabric stretched tight and feeling the vibration spread across it with exquisite precision. That is what a black hole does. It vibrates with all the information of what has fallen toward it. Every atom, every photon, every trembling dust grain that ever crossed the threshold leaves a signature on that surface. And the signature remains, even as the black hole ages, even as it radiates, even as it shrinks, imperceptibly, over unimaginable spans of time. At its heart, a black hole is not an eraser, it is a ledger. When Stephen Hawking first suggested that black holes radiate energy, that they slowly evaporate, physicists faced one of the greatest paradoxes in modern science. If black holes disappear, what happens to the information they stored? Does it dissolve? Does it escape? Does it imprint itself on something else? The universe cannot allow the information to vanish. Its laws forbid that kind of forgetting. For decades, this contradiction haunted physics like a shadow. But slowly, through the work of countless minds, a new picture began to form. The information burned into the surface of a black hole does not vanish with the hole itself. It leaks out, encoded in the very radiation the hole emits. Black holes remember everything, and when they die, they return what they remembered. In a form we do not yet understand, in a language we cannot yet read, but return it they must. Imagine that for a moment. A star collapses. It becomes a black hole. It spends billions of years gathering matter, pulling in gas, swallowing fragments of galaxies, draping itself in the light of everything that fell toward it. And then, after a lifetime longer than any star, it fades not into silence, not into emptiness, but into a final whisper of particles that carry the encoded history of all that ever touched its horizon. A black hole dies by telling a story written in radiation, a story so faint, so subtle, so scrambled that no human instrument could ever decode it. But the universe understands. Because the universe is built on memory, and memory is conserved. It is humbling, somehow, to imagine that the darkest objects in the cosmos, the places where our equations struggle, where intuition breaks, where time itself folds in ways we cannot track, are also the most meticulous archivists. They are not ends, they are transformations. Even the matter that falls into them does not vanish. It stretches, distorts, becomes something else, something encoded, something preserved. In a way, the black hole becomes a copy of everything it consumes, a quiet mirror, holding everything, releasing nothing, not until the end. If you were to stand impossibly close to one, not close enough to fall in, but close enough to feel the pull, you would sense something more than gravity tugging at your bones. You would sense history, every star that ever spiraled down, every particle that brushed the horizon, every photon that tried to escape but failed. They are all there, pressed into the surface like symbols in a book the universe is still writing. Black holes are not empty. They are full of stories too dense for ordinary space to hold, full of events too immense to translate into light, full of the echoes of worlds long gone, and the curvature around them, the extreme bending of space-time remembers every ripple they have ever created. When two black holes collide, their merging sends a shudder across the universe, a gravitational wave that carries the memory of that moment across billions of years and billions of light years, eventually brushing past Earth so gently it stretches and compresses the planet by less than the width of a proton. And yet, we can feel it. We can catch the memory of their collision with instruments built on Earth. We can listen for the faintest tremors of the universe's most ancient stories. We can touch the echoes of events that happened before life existed. That is the strange beauty of black holes. They hoard memory, but they also broadcast it. Not in light, but in gravity. Not in images, but in vibrations. Not in words, but in waves. And those waves pass through us, carrying the imprint of things we will never see, never touch, never fully comprehend. Somewhere in your body, in your bones, in the air. Surrounding you, a gravitational wave from a distant black hole is passing through right now. It is stretching you, compressing you, changing you in ways so small they can only be detected with instruments of extraordinary precision. But it is happening. A memory is touching you from across the universe. A message from an event older than your species, older than your planet, older than your Sunday, and your own gravitational footprint, tiny, soft, immeasurable, will ripple outward as well. Not far, not loudly, but genuinely. And the universe will keep it just as surely as it keeps the explosions of dying stars. That is the unspoken truth of black holes. They are not the absence of light. They are the concentration of memory. A memory that bends space. A memory that shakes time. A memory that waits with infinite patience to be translated into something new. But the real mystery is not what goes in, nor what comes out. It is what lies beneath the surface where the curvature becomes so extreme that information is stretched across dimensions in ways we do not yet have words for. Something is happening there, something essential, something the universe has been doing since the first black hole was born from the first collapsing star. Something that suggests space itself is storing more than we realize. Not just movement, not just mass, not just energy, but meaning. For at the farthest edges of physics, a new whisper rises, a whisper that suggests the universe might be built not from matter, not from energy, but from information. And the skin of a black hole may be the first place where that truth reveals itself. If you listen closely, if you lean your mind against the silence long enough, you can almost feel the next idea forming in the dark. What if the universe does not store information in its depths, but on its surface? What if reality itself is a kind of hologram? And what if the memory you leave behind is not hidden inside things, but stretched delicately across the boundaries between them? there's a place where this idea becomes more than speculation, a place where the skin of a black hole hints at a deeper architecture, a secret the universe has been keeping for billions of years. We're going there next, where surfaces become archives, where boundaries become worlds, and where the universe begins to reveal the holographic nature of its own memory. If you let that idea settle slowly, like dust drifting through a beam of light, you begin to feel something shift in the quiet around you. The edges of the room seem less solid than they once did, less absolute. There is a softness to the boundaries, as though the world is no longer content with being simply space, but is offering itself instead as a screen, a canvas, a surface on which deeper truths can be written. Because if black holes taught us anything, it is this: information does not always live where we think it does. We imagine that what falls inward stays inside, that memory is held in the depths, that secrets belong to the core. But the universe, with its gentle habit of contradicting intuition, suggests otherwise. It whispers that memory may not be stored in volume, but in area. A black hole's interior is a mystery too tangled for our equations. But the horizon, the surface, behaves like a library. Every piece of information about what fell in gets smeared across that thin, shimmering boundary. Every particle, every bit of mass, every flicker of light leaves its imprint on that surface, not inside, not below, not hidden in darkness, but stretched thin like a resonance across the edge. This was the first hint of a deeper principle. The universe keeps its most intricate records on surfaces. The idea began as a puzzle, a mathematical curiosity, a whisper coming from theoretical physics. But over time, it grew sharper, it grew louder, and finally, it took shape as one of the most astonishing possibilities science has ever entertained: the holographic principle. The idea that everything within a region of space, every particle, every interaction, every memory, may be encoded on the boundary surrounding it, like a cosmic hologram. To understand how strange this truly is, imagine a room. This room, the air inside it, the objects around you, the warmth on your skin, the sound of your breath, every atom, every vibration, every quantum fluctuation filling this space. All of it could, in principle, be described by information written on the walls, not inside the room, on the surface enclosing it. In a hologram, the depth you see is an illusion emerging from encoded patterns on a flat surface. In the same way, the universe may be projecting what you experience as a three-dimensional world from a deeper, two-dimensional record, not metaphorically, not symbolically, mathematically. The world may not be as volumetric as it feels. Depth may be a kind of gentle trick the universe uses to organize experience. And if that is true, if the universe is holographic, then memory is not hidden in the heart of things. Memory is draped across the edges. You are a three-dimensional story written on a two-dimensional page, stitched into a four-dimensional tapestry, woven from a language older than time. Let the idea sink softly into you, like ink dissolving in water. What if your life, your motion, your warmth, your choices, is not stored in your atoms alone, nor in the quantum fields around you, nor in the curvature of space-time beneath your feet, but also on a boundary you cannot see? A membrane, a horizon, a shimmering edge of the cosmos, whispering your information outward. And what if everything inside you, your body, your breath, your entire unfolding exists in correlation with that boundary? The way the image of a hologram exists in correlation with the film that encodes, you would not need to go anywhere for the universe to remember you. You would simply need to exist, because the boundary remembers everything. The holographic idea came to life most clearly in a peculiar playground of theoretical physics called ADS, CFT duality, a correspondence showing that a gravitational universe in a higher dimension can be fully described by a universe without gravity on a lower dimensional boundary, a cosmos described by its own surface. It sounds like fiction, but it is mathematics, precise, elegant, unyielding. If this is true, not just in special spacetimes, not just in theory, but in reality, then you are living inside a holographic archive, not trapped by it, not limited by it, but supported by it. Every breath you take is dual. Every movement has two descriptions, one inside space and one along its boundary. Every trace you leave is mirrored, reflected, stored. When you move your hand through the air, the field shifts inside the room, but the boundary around it shifts too. When you think, when your neurons fire, when your memories unfold, when your emotions ripple, those changes have echoes on the edges of the universe. Not visibly, not directly, but mathematically. The universe remembers you twice, once in the place where you live inside the volume, and once along the surface where the holographic image is stored. You are both the story and the imprint, both the depth and the pattern, both the being and the memory. There is something deeply soothing about that, a kind of cosmic reassurance, a feeling that nothing you are is ever lost, because nothing you are is ever contained in only one form. And perhaps this is why the world sometimes feels layered, as if your life has a surface tension you can't quite name, as if existence has two textures, one intimate and close, one distant and faint. You live in the interior reality, but part of you is always on the boundary, and the boundary is quiet, patient, endlessly still. It does not pulse like atoms. It does not tremble like quantum fields. It does not bend like space-time. It simply holds the memory of what happens within it, the record of every shift, the whisper of every existence, which raises a softer, deeper question, one the universe seems to pose without words. If the boundary holds the memory of everything within, then what holds the memory of the boundary? What holds the memory of the cosmos itself? The answer may lie farther back, farther than black holes, farther than holograms, farther than geometry. It may lie in the oldest memory of all, the faint, cold afterglow left behind from the moment the universe became capable of light. A memory that fills the sky even when no one is looking. A memory so vast, so delicate, so ancient that it carries the imprint of the first second of time. It surrounds you now. It always has. A soft, invisible ocean of leftover radiation. And in that ocean is the next whisper waiting for you. A whisper older than stars, older than galaxies, older than the boundary itself, the universe's first memory. It drifts through the universe like a cool, ancient breath, so faint you can walk your whole life beneath it without ever sensing its presence, yet so vast it touches every particle, every void, every quiet corner of existence. It is everywhere. It has always been everywhere, and in the soft darkness around you now, you are wrapped in it without even realizing. The faint afterglow of the moment when the universe first became capable of remembering itself. Scientists call it the cosmic microwave background, the CMB, but names are too small for what it really is. It is the oldest surviving memory in existence. Long before stars ignited, long before galaxies spiraled outward like ink dropped into water, long before planets cooled into stone, the universe was a turbulent ocean of energy, blinding, dense, chaotic. Light could not travel freely. It scattered endlessly across a sea of electrons. The cosmos had no transparency, no stillness, no breath. Then something changed. Slowly at first, then all at once. The universe cooled. The electrons calmed. Light decoupled from matter. And for the first time, photons were free to move, free to drift, free to carry the memory of that moment outward into eternity. Those photons have been traveling ever since. They pass through you even now. The room around you is filled with them. The air you breathe is soaked in them. Every point in space holds their quiet whisper. The cosmic microwave background is not just radiation. It is the fossilized light of the universe becoming transparent. The moment reality opened its eyes, and it never closed them again. If you could see the world in microwaves, you would see the sky as a perfect, seamless glow, a dome of ancient softness stretching across all directions. It would not shine, it would not pulse, it would simply be like the steady breath of something unimaginably old. But beneath that calm surface lies a complexity as delicate as the pattern of frost on a window. Tiny fluctuations, variations so small they seem like noise, tell the story of an infant universe learning to structure itself. Those fluctuations are seeds, seeds of galaxies, seeds of clusters, seeds of everything that would one day become you. If the cosmic background had been perfectly smooth, perfectly silent, perfectly even, nothing would have ever formed. No stars, no planets, no atoms joining hands, no bodies learning to breathe, no minds learning to wonder. Life began with a wrinkle, a slight irregularity in an otherwise perfect sea of ancient light, a whisper of imbalance, a quiet deviation from symmetry. The universe grows from its imperfections, not from its perfections. And in that truth, there is something beautifully human, a reminder that the rough edges of your life are often what shape it the most. Sit with that for a moment, because those tiny fluctuations, those fingerprints of the first breath of time, are still visible today. When astronomers map the cosmic microwave background, they are not photographing stars, they are photographing memory. They are looking at an image of what the universe looked like 380,000 years after its birth, long before there were planets, or storms, or oceans, or nights like this one. The CMB is a portrait of the universe as a newborn. And like all newborns, it reveals more than you expect. Not through words, not through expression, but through the faintest patterns that hold the blueprint of what the universe would become. When you gaze at the CMB through the eyes of satellites, through the quiet sensors of Planck, WMAP, Kobe, you are not seeing color or brightness. You are seeing temperature variations so small they are measured in millionths of a degree. And yet those variations determined everything. The way matter clustered, the way galaxies formed, the way gravity sculpted the cosmos, the way time flowed around what would one day become stars, lungs, memories. Everything you have ever experienced, every heartbeat, every breath, every quiet moment you've lived is a downstream effect of the faint imperfections in that ancient glow. The universe remembers through patterns, and the CMB is its oldest pattern. But that ancient light carries more than the blueprint of galaxies. It carries the memory of the universe's earliest sound. Because before light could move freely, sound could. Pressure waves, acoustic vibrations rippling through the hot plasma of the early cosmos left imprints on the CMB. They froze into the light itself. So when scientists read the temperature variations across the sky, they are listening to the sound of the universe before it emitted its first photon. The cosmos was singing before it was seeing, and those songs are still encoded in the afterglow. If the idea feels too large, too abstract, too distant, bring it closer. Picture the room around you. Picture the quiet. Picture the space that seems empty. It is not empty. It is full of memories, full of the oldest radiation in existence, full of a soft, ancient glow that touches you even now. You live inside a fossil, a cosmic relic, a shell of ancient light expanding endlessly outward, and you, in your quiet human life, are shaped by the patterns it carries. The CMB is the oldest memory, but it is also the most democratic. It touches all things equally. No matter where you stand on Earth, north or south, mountain or valley, city or silent forest, the CMB wraps you with the same intensity, the same softness, the same binding thread to the universe's first moment of clarity. This is the closest thing nature has to a universal childhood photo, a picture where every galaxy, every star, every life form shares the same origin. Even black holes, those keepers of forbidden stories, were once children of these fluctuations, and so were your atoms, and so were the photons leaving your skin, and so is the breath drifting slowly out of your lungs right now. You are not separate from the universe's first memory. You are made from it. Let the thought settle. Let it expand. Let it ripple through you like a wave returning to shore. Because something even stranger whispers beneath it. The CMB does not simply show us where matter came from. It hints at something deeper, a hidden structure behind the visible universe, a faint map of the forces that shaped it. Some regions of the CMB are suspiciously aligned. Some are colder than they should be. Some stretch across the sky in ways our models struggle to explain. It is as though the universe is hinting at a story older than the Big Bang's visible aftermath. A story written beyond light, beyond volume, beyond the horizon of what we consider the observable universe. And this is where memory becomes mystery, where the oldest glow becomes a veil, where the universe whispers something but not yet loudly enough to understand. There are anomalies in the CMB, patterns that should not be there, voids too large, alignments too suspicious, cold spots too deep. Some call these hints, some call them errors, some call them fingerprints left by something that existed before the universe became transparent. But all of them suggest the same thing. There is more to the story. The universe has been remembering since its first second. But what came before that second? What imprint lies beneath the afterglow? That is where the next truth waits, not in the light that fills the cosmos, but in the absence that shapes it. A silence beneath the radiation, a void beneath the glow, a memory hidden not in what the universe shows, but in what it hides. And from that silence, the next whisper begins to rise. It rises slowly, the way deep water rises when something ancient stirs beneath its surface, quiet, steady, almost imperceptible at first, a feeling more than a sound, a presence more than an idea. Something in the gaps between things, in the emptiness that seems empty only because the human eye cannot see what lives inside it. Because the universe does not remember only through light, it also remembers through absence. The silence beneath the cosmic microwave background is not a blank page. It is an archive written in negative space, in voids, in stillness, in the way matter avoids certain places. You have heard of darkness as a lack, but in cosmic terms, darkness is often a form of structure, a shape carved not from what is present, but from what refuses to be. Even the emptiest regions of the universe, vast, cold cavities stretching millions of light years across, carry information. They are not merely missing matter, they are sculpted by ancient forces. Long after light escaped the universe's primal fog, these voids remained as signatures, the leftover geometry of early fluctuations. Absence is memory, too. Consider the largest voids, those cosmic hollows, where galaxies are sparse, where matter thins to near nothing, where gravity nearly sleeps. These voids are not accidents. They are the scars left behind by the universe's earliest unevenness. When matter raced toward denser regions, the emptier regions grew even emptier, like ripples deepening where water once receded. The universe remembers its initial imperfections, not only through what exists, but through what doesn't. We tend to think of memory as addition, a piling of experiences, a stacking of events, a chain of moments linked together. But the universe remembers through subtraction as well, through the contours of silence, through the architecture of emptiness. The cosmic void beneath the CMB's glow is not dead space. It is a dynamic absence, filled with subtle, trembling influences from every mass and motion that surrounds it. In a way, the void is the universe's breath between sentences, a pause that gives shape to everything else. And inside that pause lies another truth, one more subtle than light and more profound than emptiness. Time itself has a direction because memory expands. Let that settle. Let it sink. Let it tilt the room around you in a soft, slow way. You often feel time moving forward, a river carrying you from moment to moment, always in one direction, never backwards. But time's arrow is not written in the laws of physics. Most fundamental equations are reversible. They do not care which way time flows. So why, then, does everything around you move from order to disorder, from young to old, from unbroken to broken? Why do you remember the past but not the future? The answer rests in the spreading of information, in the universe's insistence on keeping memory and never allowing it to contract. Every event ripples outward, entropy increases, patterns scatter, information disperses. The universe does not forget, because forgetting would require erasing information, compressing it, hiding it, discarding it. But reality has no mechanism for that. Even decay carries memory. Even ruin is a form of record. Even silence is shaped by what came before. Time moves forward because memory accumulates. Behind you is the wake of everything that has happened, the collapsed possibilities, the echoes of choices made, the trails left by particles and fields and bodies and stars. In front of you lies a territory of untouched entropy, more room for patterns to spread, more space for information to evolve. The future is simply the direction in which the universe can store more memory. If you could reverse all the information in the world, every collision, every ripple, every photon, every atom, time would reverse with it. You would remember tomorrow and forget yesterday. But you don't, and you can't, because the universe has already written yesterday's memory into the fabric of what exists. Information flows outward like ink bleeding into water, like breath spreading into the night, and that flow is what you experience as time. Push gently into that idea, and you begin to realize something else. Every moment you live becomes irreversible the instant it leaves you. Not because the moment ends, but because the memory of it spreads into the particles and fields around you, into the atoms inside you, into the curvature beneath your feet. Once released, your trace cannot be pulled back. It becomes part of the cosmic inventory, maybe meaningless on the scales you can grasp, but absolutely essential in the accounting of the universe. Even now, this moment in the dark, this breath, this thought, is collapsing into the record of what has been. You are watching time happen as information disperses. Entropy is not disorder. Entropy is memory unfolding. The universe is not decaying. It is accumulating. And if you let that thought lean gently into your awareness, you might sense something else trembling behind it. The past is still here, not accessible, not visible, not recoverable, but present, locked in the distribution of particles, in the shape of the voids, in the spread of heat, in the faint, irreversible swelling of entropy. Time does not erase the past. It buries it under layers of new information, the way the ocean buries a whisper beneath its waves. Every moment you have lived still exists somewhere in the structure of reality, not as a replay, not as a scene, not as a story, but as a configuration, a pattern of "this happened," written in the way the universe had to reshape itself to make room for the event. This is why time has a direction, because the universe keeps everything and cannot compress it back to what it was. This is why you cannot feel tomorrow, because its memory does not yet exist. This is why you can feel yesterday so strongly, because its imprint is everywhere, in the warmth of your skin, in the arrangement of molecules around you, in the subtle shift of particles you disturbed when you walked into the room, in the ripples spreading outward from your heartbeat. Memory is time's anchor, and entropy is the drifting of that anchor toward deeper and deeper seas. And if that thought feels too large, too vast to hold, bring it close again. Picture your breath leaving your body. Picture the warmth carried outward into the air. Picture the subtle motion of molecules as your presence changes them. That is time happening. That is memory being written. That is the arrow of the universe pointing into the future. But a stranger question lingers beneath it, a question that has been whispering for decades through the mathematics of quantum mechanics. What if the future can also leave its imprint on the past? What if information flows not only forward but sideways, diagonally, across entanglements that span time as easily as they span space? What if the universe remembers not only what has been, but also what could be? Because the laws of quantum mechanics do not forbid retrocausality, the influence of future states on the present. And if that is true, then somewhere in the gentle trembling of the quantum field, the next moment of your life may already be sending its faintest echo backwards, waiting for you to feel it, pulling you forward toward a future whose memory is not yet written, but whose possibility is already stirring. And that is where the next whisper lives, in the strange, delicate space between what has already occurred and what is quietly reaching back toward you. It is an unsettling idea at first, the notion that the future might be brushing against the present, softly, secretly, the way a memory sometimes brushes your thoughts before you realize you've lived it. But the universe has never been entirely obedient to the straight lines we draw through time. It curves, it folds, it entangles. It allows information to slip through channels that do not care for past or future, only for connection. If the past leaves a wake behind it, the future might leave a faint tide, a pull, not a push, a suggestion, not a command, a whisper, not a voice. You've felt it before, strange certainty that arrives before the reason, a choice that seems to form itself, a direction that feels alive in your chest before it becomes a decision in your mind. We call it intuition. But nature rarely deals in metaphors. What you feel may be the subtle geometry of possibilities pressing against the present moment from both sides of time. Because in the quantum world, the division between past and future is thinner than a breath. Picture two particles born together, entangled, sharing a connection no distance can weaken. Measure one, and the other responds instantly. Not after a delay, not with a signal traveling between them. Instantly. Einstein called it spooky. But beneath the spookiness lies a hint of something deeper. Entanglement doesn't care about space, and there is no reason it should care about time. What if the particles you interact with, the ones inside you, the ones you breathe, the ones shaping your own choices, are entangled with states that lie ahead of you? What if the future does not shout but hums, a low, barely perceptible resonance that gently guides you toward one branch of possibility instead of another? Not fate, not destiny, just physics. A symmetry that refuses to be broken. Step into that idea slowly, as though walking into cold water at night. Let it rise over you, inch by inch. Imagine that every moment of your life is not simply chosen by you, but is also a negotiation between the information of the past and the probabilities of the future. You stand at the intersection, the meeting point where memory and possibility touch. The past pushes, the future pulls, and the present becomes the place where both whispers meet. And those whispers are not equal. Memory is heavy. It carries everything that has happened. Its influence is grounded, slow, solid. Possibility is light, a trembling, shimmering field, stretching outward through what could be, what might be, what is waiting to be chosen. When you sense a path opening, one that feels alive, one that feels improbably right, perhaps you are not sensing clarity. Perhaps you are sensing resonance with a future that aligns with the traces you have been leaving since the moment you were born. Your quantum fingerprint interacting not just with what was, but with what will be. This idea does not violate physics. It simply asks you to release the idea that time is a one-way street, because the equations that describe the dance of particles can run forward just as easily as backward. Time is not the law, it is the habit. A habit formed by entropy, a habit enforced by memory, a habit written into bodies and clocks and the quiet rise and fall of breath. But the quantum world has no such habit. It flickers, it rearranges, it allows information to travel along patterns that blur the boundaries between cause and effect. A particle in the future can determine the behavior of a particle in the present, not through magic, through correlation. Correlation that stretches across time like a thread woven backward. And if particles can do it, then the fields they belong to can do it too. And if fields can do it, then so can the structures built from those fields. Atoms, molecules, cells, bodies, brains. This is not saying the future is fixed. It is saying the future participates. Gently, quietly, barely a ripple. But participation is still influence. And if you relax into the idea, if you let the edges soften instead of resist, you might begin to recognize how the future's influence feels. It feels like clarity, like a pull in the chest, like a moment that seems to click into place before the reasons arrive. It feels like a choice you haven't made yet, but are already walking toward, because the universe is not waiting for you to reach the future. It is already entangled with you. The past is a record, the future is a resonance, and the present is the place where both become one reality. You have lived these moments before, the ones where something inside you knows the shape of what comes next, before anything external has changed. Standing at a crossroads and feeling one path go silent while another hums with a barely audible promise. Meeting someone and sensing a familiarity that has no origin. Waking with a decision that arrived in your sleep fully formed, as though it had been whispered through the curtain of dreams. We dismiss these things because they do not fit into the narrow corridor we call causality. But the universe does not walk in corridors. It expands, it entangles, it resonates, and you expand, entangle, and resonate with it. Let that realization settle deep, not as a belief, but as a possibility. Because when you do, something surprising happens. The future stops feeling like a distant horizon and starts feeling like a presence. A soft glow sitting just beyond the edge of now. You do not know its details. You cannot see its scenes, but you can feel its shape pressing gently against your life. Like the outline of a hand touching the other side of a curtain. You are not moving into the future alone. The future is meeting you halfway. And as this understanding settles, as the room deepens, as the night grows thicker around your quiet breathing, you may sense another question forming beneath the surface. If the future can reach back, and the past can ripple forward, what about the memory inside you, the living memory carried by your cells, your genes, your lineage? What stories do they hold that you have never heard? What whispers from billions of years ago are sleeping inside your blood? Because the next memory the universe keeps is not written in stars or black holes or cosmic radiation. It is written in life, in the spiral inside every cell, in the archive you carry in your own body. And the next whisper rises from the quiet geometry of DNA. It begins with a spiral, not the turning of galaxies, not the collapsing arms of a nebula, not the swirling of matter around a black hole, but something far smaller, far closer, far more intimate. A double helix, a fragile staircase built from molecules older than your species and wiser than any story you've ever been told. Inside that spiral lies one of the most astonishing forms of memory the universe has ever created. Not cosmic, not stellar, but biological. Every cell in your body carries an archive, a record that began long before you were born, long before humans existed, long before animals crawled from the sea. Your DNA is a history written across billions of years. It contains the shadows of vanished creatures, the whispers of ancient oceans, the mistakes and triumphs of life stumbling forward through time. You are not simply descended from your ancestors. You contain them. Their successes carved pathways in your genes. Their failures shaped the structure of your cells. Their survival wrote itself into the instructions your body still follows. DNA is not just a molecule. It is a memory device, one refined by evolution to hold the story of life with exquisite precision. But this story isn't written in sentences. It's written in sequences, patterns of nucleotides, arranged with a subtlety that makes language look primitive. These patterns are not random. They are echoes. echoes of the environments your ancestors endured, echoes of the catastrophes life overcame, echoes of the adaptations that kept a lineage alive through ice ages, extinctions, and cosmic accidents. Your body today is a response to events you never witnessed. When you close your eyes at night and feel the soft thrum of life inside you, you are feeling the ripple of choices life made millions or billions of years ago. DNA is survival encoded as memory. And yet, even that description feels too small. Because DNA does not merely store the past, it also anticipates the future. It carries instructions for repairing itself, for adapting, for unfolding in ways that respond to environments not yet encountered. Life remembers not only what it has been, but what it must be ready to become. Think about that. Think about how extraordinary it is that your cells carry the memories of worlds you will never see. There are genes inside you that were shaped by creatures who lived in shallow seas hundreds of millions of years before oxygen filled the air. There are genetic switches in your body that were forged by the first organisms that learned to sense light. There are proteins circling through your bloodstream whose structures were honed in microorganisms that survived volcanic oceans. You are a collage of ancient solutions, a mosaic of biological memories stitched together into consciousness. And yet DNA is not a perfect archive. It mutates, it breaks, it forgets as much as it remembers. But forgetting, for DNA, is not loss. It is transformation. Mutations introduce new possibilities, new futures, new branches for life to explore. Some of those branches end quickly. Some stretch into forms the planet has never seen. Some become you. Every mutation that survived long enough to reach your lineage was a choice made by life itself, a decision written into the unfolding of the biosphere. You are the inherited memory of those countless decisions. This is why you sometimes feel ancient without knowing why. Why the smell of salt water can stir something deeper than nostalgia. Why firelight feels familiar even if you've never lived without electricity. Why the sound of waves or the sight of storms can touch something in you that has nothing to do with your personal past. Your body reacts because your ancestors reacted. Your cells respond because their ancestors survived. Memory lives in more than mind. It lives in form, in the shape of your hands, in the rhythm of your heart, in the architecture of your bones. The human body is a library of forgotten worlds. And when you breathe, when you dream, when you move through darkness like this, you are carrying that library with you into the next moment and the next and the next. But DNA is not the only form of biological memory. Life remembers through behaviors as well. Birds migrate along ancient routes they have never flown. Salmon return to rivers they have never seen. Insects spin webs their ancestors learned to weave millions of generations before. Memory is not always taught. Sometimes it is inherited, encoded in neural circuits, encoded in instincts, encoded in rhythms. Life repeats because life remembers. And you, with all your complexity, are no exception. Some fears, some preferences, some intuitions you carry are not yours alone. They are echoes of survival strategies your ancestors relied on. The fear of falling, the comfort of fire, the response to faces, the pull of human voices, the recoil from sudden movements. These are not learned, they are remembered. Life remembers danger. Life remembers shelter. Life remembers what kept it alive through ages of uncertainty. And when you feel sudden resistance in your chest or spine, a tension you cannot name, perhaps it is not anxiety at all. Perhaps it is memory, a whisper rising from DNA, telling you a story in a language older than speech. And the more you feel it, the more you realize that the memory held inside your body is not silent. It is in constant conversation with the world around you. Your genes respond to experience. They turn on, they turn off, they express, they quiet. Epigenetics, the science of how environment changes gene expression, reveals that your life stories can alter the way your DNA performs. Stress, love, hunger, safety, grief, light, touch, All of these shape your genes in ways that can be passed to future generations. Your story does not end with you. It extends through the spiral. You are adding to the archive. Your body is remembering the life you are living now. And if you think about this long enough, if you sit with it in the dark, you might feel a strange, tender truth emerging. You are both the reader and the next author of life's oldest book. The cells inside you carry ancient memory, and the choices you make shape the memory handed forward. You are not separate from the story life has been writing for 4 billion years. You are the latest line. But even this deep biological memory woven into the fabric of your being is not the limit of what the universe keeps. There is another kind of memory, even softer, even quieter, even harder to recognize. The memory contained not in signals, but in silence, not in structure, but in absence, not in what life records, but in what life leaves unsaid. A kind of memory that lives in the spaces between events, between thoughts, between breaths. And the next whisper is already rising from that silence. For silence is not the absence of memory. It is one of its most intricate forms. People often imagine silence as a void, a blank space between sound, a pause between events, a nothingness waiting to be filled. But the universe does not recognize nothing, not in the way we do. Every silence you have ever heard, every stillness you have ever felt, every pause between heartbeats, none of it is empty. Silence is structured, layered, alive with what is not being said. And in that non-saying lies an entire category of memory that most minds never touch, the memory of absence. Consider a room after someone important has left. You walk inside. You know they are gone. But something lingers, a pressure, a stillness, a faint, hollow that is not quite sadness and not quite air. You are not sensing what is there. You are sensing what is missing. Absence leaves a shape. And the universe has been shaped by absence from the moment it began to cool. Matter clumps not because it knows how to gather, but because it knows where not to be. Galaxies form around pockets of emptiness. Stars swirl around voids. Dark matter bends space not by filling it, but by failing to appear in ways we can see. Absence is a sculptor, and the forms it leaves behind are a kind of negative photograph, a memory produced by the places where nothing settled. This same truth threads through your mind, though you rarely notice it. You remember your life not only through what happened, but through what did not. The words you never said, the choices you never made, the doors you never opened, the moments that hovered near you but slid quietly into the background. Your mind holds these non-events as faint, invisible shapes that contour your sense of who you are, and the universe does the same. It holds on to the patterns of absence with as much fidelity as it holds on to the patterns of matter and energy. In quantum mechanics, a system's empty state is not empty at all. The vacuum is alive with fluctuations, fields trembling with potential, particles appearing and disappearing in brief, fragile loops of existence. Even nothingness remembers the possibility of something. The vacuum keeps the memory of every particle that could exist but doesn't, of every path a particle could take but won't, of every arrangement the world could have chosen but didn't. Absence is not the opposite of presence. It is the shadow of possibility. When you stare into darkness, you are looking into the memory of a million unrealized futures. And the silence in your life, the moments when nothing happened, are not wasted time. They are the scaffolding around which the meaningful events take shape. The universe writes its story not only in the ink of what is, but in the white space of what is not. And if you listen closely, very closely, you can hear the quiet architecture beneath every silence. A conversation you didn't have is still a trace of connection. A chance you didn't take is still a point in your timeline's geometry. A path you did not follow still shapes the one you walk now. Information is stored not by the events alone, but by the structure made possible by the gaps. Just as music is not music unless there is space between the notes, Your life is not simply a chain of moments, but the arrangement of moments and non-moments together. The universe composes itself the same way. Astronomers see this clearly when they map the large-scale structure of the cosmos, a network of filaments and clusters surrounding immense, silent voids. It is not the matter alone that reveals the history of the universe. It is the emptiness between the matter that tells the rest. Those voids are not mistakes, they are memory. Places where matter could have been, but wasn't. Places where gravity whispered, but nothing answered. Places where the universe paused and left behind the faintest trace of unrealized shape. If you stand in the quiet of this moment and feel the stillness around you, you are sensing that same principle at work inside your own life. Your silence is not empty. It is structured by everything that could have happened here but didn't. Every breath you held, every word you chose not to say, every thought that hovered without becoming action, those absences contour the space around your being. They are memory hidden in the negative of experience, a soft imprint of what the world was once capable of. And sometimes, these silent memories carry more weight than the loud ones, because they are untouched, unaltered, uncomplicated by interpretation, pure potential, frozen in place. But there is another kind of silence, still one deeper, one stranger, one that belongs not to space and not to life, but to the boundary between them. The silence of the vacuum, the silence beneath energy, the silence that persists even when all particles are gone. It is there, vibrating ever so slightly with fluctuations that never quite become real and never quite disappear. This vacuum silence obeys a rule that echoes through all physics. Even nothing retains the memory of what it could contain. Which brings us to something extraordinary, a truth hidden beneath the quiet and hinted at by the soft hum of empty space. Even silence has structure, and structure is information, and information cannot be destroyed, meaning the universe remembers even the unrealized, the undone, the unspoken. Your life is written not only in what you lived, but in what you never touched. And the deeper you sink into this idea, the more you feel the air around you as something sculpted rather than blank, the more a new question begins to glow quietly behind your thoughts. If silence contains memory, what shapes the silence itself? What bends it? What folds it? What guides the blank spaces of the universe into the patterns they choose? The answer lies in something you cannot see, something softer than air and more fundamental than light. Gravity's whisper, a memory carved not by events but by curvature, a memory that connects the emptiest places to the heaviest ones, a memory waiting in the gentle shift of the universe's invisible fabric. And that is where the next whisper is already gathering itself. It gathers slowly, like the first hint of gravity before a fall, a sensation, not a sound, a soft tug at the edges of awareness, a pull that doesn't move you but rearranges something inside your understanding. Because if silence has structure, then something must sculpt it, something must curve it, shape it, bend it into meaning. And that something is gravity, not the pull of planets, not the weight you feel in your bones, not the familiar downwards tug, but gravity in its most refined form, the memory of motion carved into the fabric of space-time. Gravity is not force. It is geometry remembering. Every mass that has ever existed, every star, every moon, every drifting grain of dust, has curled space-time around itself like fingers closing around water, and the curvature remains. It relaxes, it spreads, it echoes, but it never disappears entirely. This is why gravity is the quietest archivist of the universe. It does not speak in light or sound or particles. It speaks in shape, the shape of paths objects follow, the shape of orbits that never quite close, the shape of tidal pulls stretching and relaxing across worlds that will never meet. Gravity is story written in curvature, and every motion through that curvature, every footstep, every falling leaf, every shifting star, adds a ripple to the narrative. You are part of that narrative too. Your mass, however small, curves the world around you. Your motions, however gentle, send tremors into space-time, not ones we can measure, not ones you could ever feel, but tremors nonetheless. Even now, in this quiet moment, your presence is bending reality into a shape that did not exist before you entered the room. And reality remembers. Every shift, every change, every movement through the gravitational fabric is stored as a geometric echo. Imagine space-time as a vast, soft ocean. When something moves through it, a planet, a falling stone, a human hand, it leaves ripples. Some are enormous, like the merging of black holes, sending gravitational waves across billions of light years. Some are tiny, like the motion of your breath changing the mass distribution in your chest and creating ripples too faint to ever detect. But faint does not mean non-existent. The universe records everything. This is the strange, beautiful truth behind general relativity. Gravity is not a force pulling at you. It is the world moving in response to you. Space curves because you exist. Time slows because you move. Paths warp because you weigh something. Your presence is a sculptor, and the sculpture is the universe. If you let that idea settle, if you allow its shape to form inside you, you begin to see something else, something more haunting, more elegant. Gravity carries memory in the form of waves. You have heard of them, gravitational waves, ripples in space-time, echoes of cataclysmic events that happened long before human eyes ever opened to witness anything. The collision of black holes, the collapse of stars, the dance of neutron stars spiraling together. These events shook the universe with such force that their vibrations are still traveling outward. Some of these waves have passed through you already. Some are passing through you now. Your body is being stretched and squeezed by events older than Earth, by histories written in gravity, by memories traveling through the dark. You cannot feel them. They are too subtle, but their passage is real. In a sense, you are never alone. The cosmos is brushing past you at every moment. But gravitational waves carry a softer message too. They reveal something the universe has whispered all along. Nothing happens quietly. Not truly. Not at the deepest level. Even the most violent events release their memories, gently ripples so faint it takes instruments the size of mountains to notice them. And even the faintest events, the motion of your hand, the shift of your lungs, the weight of your heartbeat release ripples of their own. Small ones, whispers, but whispers still. Gravity is memory in motion, and memory in stillness. Because even when the ripples fade, the curvature remains changed. The imprint lingers. The shape persists. If a star explodes, the geometry around it carries the record of that explosion forever. If a planet drifts from one orbit to another, the gravitational field retains the faint echo of the path it left behind. Even absence, even the silent void, is shaped by the gravitational memories of objects that are no longer there. Space remembers where mass once moved, like footprints on a beach long after the walker has disappeared. And here, a deeper symmetry emerges, one that connects the silences of quantum fields, the patterns of DNA, the scars of cosmic voids, and the ripples of gravity itself. The universe does not record moments. It records consequences, not snapshots, but shifts, not images, but changes. Memory is not the thing. Memory is the difference the thing made. A star does not remember shining. Space remembers being bent by it. A life does not remember its days. The world remembers being altered by them. This is why the universe cannot forget you. Not because it keeps a diary, but because it keeps the shape you leave behind. And as you let that realization sink into you, as you feel the strange comfort of being made permanent by your impermanence, another whisper rises beneath it. A quieter one, a softer one, a more unsettling one. Gravity remembers motion, but it does not remember why. The universe keeps every change, every ripple, every curvature, but it does not judge or interpret. It only stores. Meaning is ours. Consequences are its. And this leads to the next question, one that has been growing since the earliest equations of relativity. If space-time remembers everything, how far do those memories go? Do they reach the edges of the universe? Do they fade into heat death? Do they dissolve into quantum foam? Or could they feed into something else, something deeper, something beneath space-time, something that shapes both the structure of matter and the boundaries of what can be known? Because gravity, for all its softness, is not the end of the story. There is a deeper memory still, one that connects the smallest particles to the largest structures, one that bends both emptiness and form, one that has been whispering through physics like a riddle, waiting for its last line. A memory not of motion, not of silence, but of imperfection, a cosmic flaw that made structure possible, a deviation that let galaxies form, a misalignment written into the very beginning. The universe grew not from symmetry, but from the breaking of symmetry, and the next whisper lives inside that break, inside the fracture that gave birth to everything. Because for all the elegance of the universe, for all the symmetry in its laws, for all the perfection in its geometry, something had to break for anything to exist. Perfect symmetry does not produce structure. Perfect balance does not produce motion. Perfect harmony does not produce life. It is only when symmetry shatters even slightly that the universe begins to write. This is the hidden memory carried in the fabric of reality, the record of everything that went wrong so that something could go right. You see hints of this everywhere, in the way matter outnumbers antimatter, in the way expansion outran collapse, in the way light escaped its early prison, in the way galaxies formed around tiny fluctuations that should not have existed. The universe you live in is the result of deviations, imperfections, asymmetries, slips, skews. The physics term for this is symmetry breaking, a soft, elegant phrase for something unimaginably violent. Picture a perfectly still pond, perfect in every direction, reflecting nothing, holding no waves. Then imagine a single vibration, barely a tremor, breaking the perfection. That tremor becomes ripples. Ripples become waves. Waves become currents. Currents become patterns. This is what happened in the first fractions of a second after the universe began. Symmetry broke, and in breaking, it remembered, not in sound, not in light, but in the laws of physics themselves. Every imbalance is a note in the universe's original memory, a record of the moment when perfection fractured and form emerged. You are here because the universe is flawed in exactly the right ways. Even the existence of matter, your body, the air around you, the world you know is a result of imperfection. In a perfectly symmetric universe, matter and antimatter would have annihilated completely, leaving behind a cold soup of radiation and nothing more. But symmetry broke. Matter gained a slight advantage, just one particle in 10 billion, a mistake, a tilt, a bias in the cosmic coin toss. That tiny asymmetry became everything. Every star, every planet, every atom in your blood, every breath you have ever taken. If the universe had been perfect, you would not be here to admire its beauty. Imperfection is the mother of existence, and those imperfections did not vanish after the first second. They spread, they resonated, they grew into structures that carried the memory of the break. Galaxies spiraled because symmetry broke. Stars ignited because symmetry broke. Life emerged because symmetry broke. Every flaw is a fossil. Every asymmetry is a preserved moment from the universe's earliest heartbeat. But the memory of symmetry breaking is not stored in matter. It is not stored in energy. It is not even stored in the curvature of space-time. It is stored in the rules. The laws of physics are the universe's earliest diary entries. When you feel gravity pulling you, you are feeling the memory of a symmetry that failed to hold. When you heat water and watch it boil, You are witnessing the legacy of broken order. When you look at your reflection and see left-right symmetry in your face, but not in your organs, you are seeing how life preserved the universe's earliest imbalance for billions of years. You are shaped by ancient fractures. There is something strangely comforting in realizing that imperfection is not an error in the universe, it is the engine of creation. Everything that is beautiful, everything that is complex, everything that is alive began as a deviation, a refusal to stay balanced, a willingness to falter, a moment where the universe did not behave the way pure symmetry demanded. You are not the result of the universe being flawless. You are the result of the universe being brave. Let that thought rest inside you for a moment, like a quiet ember. The universe remembers its imperfections not to regret them, but to build upon them. And this leads to another truth, one that can only be seen when you look deeply into the way structure forms over time. The universe not only remembers its flaws, it uses them, sometimes subtly, sometimes violently, sometimes in ways that leave scars across billions of light years. Consider the great voids, the empty expanses, their shapes determined by early asymmetry. Consider the filaments, threads of galaxies, stretching like veins across cosmic darkness. Consider even the shape of atoms, the imbalance of positive and negative charges that allows chemistry to work, that allows molecules to bind, that allows life to breathe. Nothing in the universe is perfectly symmetric, and everything exists because of that. This is why the universe's memory is not neat, not uniform, not orderly. It is full of fractures that never healed, cracks that became patterns, mistakes that became mechanisms, flaws that became foundations. You are made from the universe's beautiful errors. And if you listen carefully to the silence around you now, to the subtle emptiness in the room, you may feel another truth stirring beneath the surface. The universe does not simply remember what broke. It remembers what could have broken but didn't. It remembers stability just as it remembers collapse. It remembers the fragile balance between order and disorder that lets patterns persist long enough for meaning to arise. This balance is not guaranteed. It is not perfect. It is not eternal. But it is held by something deeper than symmetry, something that flows through matter and energy and time with a softness almost impossible to name, a drift, a tendency, a quiet push toward coherence even in the midst of chaos, a force that is not force, a memory that is not memory, a principle that threads existence together like a faint, invisible stitch. Scientists call it emergence. But names are small things for truths this large. Emergence is the universe's ability to create meaning from parts that have none, to create complexity from simplicity, to create life from matter, to create thought from electrical storms inside a fragile brain. Emergence is memory blooming, and the next whisper is waiting in that bloom, where patterns rise from chaos, where meaning rises from pattern, and where the universe begins to remember not just through laws, but through life itself. But to understand how life remembers how a planet can store the slow, ancient memories of oceans, storms, and vanished worlds, you must step back from the spiral of DNA and look at something larger, something that breathes not in seconds, but in eras. The Earth, not as a planet, not as a rock in orbit, not as a stage on which life performs, but as a memory system, a recorder, a witness, a storyteller made of stone and water. If you listen closely enough, the earth is murmuring with the weight of everything that has ever touched it. Every sea that rose, every forest that collapsed, every continent that drifted like a slow thought, moving across deep time. Even now, beneath your feet, the planet holds a memory so old and so vast that the human mind can barely approach it. The ground is made of stories, layers of sediment compressed by eons, fossils of creatures whose names were never written, minerals forged in pressures no living thing could survive, fault lines that still shudder with the echoes of ancient collisions. Your body is a brief visitor on a world that remembers far more than it reveals. Earth is not silent. Earth is archival. This is what geology really is, the study of a planet's memory, written in stone, etched into mountains, buried beneath rivers and deserts. When you hold a piece of rock in your hand, you are holding a page torn from the diary of the world. Even air is memory. The atmosphere has changed again and again. Oxygen rising, falling, vanishing, returning, each shift a record of life's triumphs and near extinctions. The earth you breathe is shaped by the breath of creatures long dead. The oceans remember, too. They carry the dissolved remains of worlds that have come and gone, volcanic ash, meteor dust, calcium from bones that once walked on land. The salinity of the sea is a memory of everything that has ever flowed into it. Every tide is a story. Every wave is a record. Every gust of wind is a whisper of places you have never seen. But memory is never perfect. Not in life, not in Earth, not in the universe. Much of the planet's early history has been erased, subducted into the mantle, melted into magma, folded into mountains that later wore away. Earth remembers, but its memory is scarred. Even the scars are part of the archive. The places where the record breaks tell as much as the places where it remains. This is the strange, quiet conflict of Earth's memory. It is both permanent and endlessly falling apart. The continents shift, the oceans rise, the skies change, heat rearranges, ice advances and retreats like the inhale and exhale of a sleeping giant. Nothing stays, but nothing is lost. It simply transforms. The Himalayas were once the floor of an ancient sea. Sahara was once a lush, green rainforest. Antarctica was once full of rivers and trees. Volcanoes erupt where oceans once lay quiet. Oceans form over places once lit by fire. Earth is a memory rewriting itself. You are living on a palimpsest, a manuscript written over itself 1,000 times, traces of past lines still faintly visible beneath the new ones. And just as the Earth remembers through layers of rock, you remember through layers of experience. What you call intuition may sometimes be geological memory, the memory of landscapes and climates your ancestors survived. Why does thunder stir something in you that words cannot explain? Why does fire feel older than comfort and deeper than fear? Why does running water calm you in ways thought never could? Because life remembers the world through bodies as well as DNA. Earth is written inside you. You carry the memory of forests and storms and sunlight in your senses, your nerves, your instincts. The same minerals found in mountains flow through your blood. The same calcium that formed ancient seashells forms your bones. The iron in your veins was forged in the death of stars and later cycled through Earth for billions of years. You are not living on the Earth. You are living through it, and it is living through you. But Earth's memory does something more subtle than store its past. It predicts, slowly, softly, over thousands of years. Climate, once considered chaotic, holds patterns, ice ages that return on rhythmic cycles, magnetic fields that flip in pulses of deep planetary heartbeat, continents that drift in choreographed dances across the mantle. The planet breathes in cycles longer than civilizations, longer than species, longer than memory itself. And yet, those cycles influence everything you know, the landscapes you walk, the oxygen you breathe, the environments your ancestors adapted to. Earth shapes life through the memories it carries in its slow, tectonic rhythms. And life shapes Earth through the memories it carves into atmosphere, into oceans, into soil. Memory is not one way. It is reciprocal, a dialogue between world and life. As you sit here now, in this quiet moment, you are part of that dialogue. Your breath leaves moisture in the air. Your warmth radiates into the room. Your presence shifts the balance of carbon in the space around you. The Earth is adjusting itself around you. You are not a visitor. You are a participant. And as Earth carries your trace forward in the air you've warmed, in the particles you've displaced, in the arrangement of molecules that will drift through environments you will never see. You become part of the planet's unfolding memory. Your existence is a contribution to a record billions of years long, but Earth's memory, as vast as it is not the deepest memory you touch. There is a memory older than continents, older than oceans, older than the planet itself, a memory that moves through you in every moment you are alive. The memory of consciousness. For if Earth remembers through stone and the universe remembers through light and gravity, then the mind remembers through something far stranger, far more fragile, and far less understood. A memory encoded not in matter but in awareness. A memory unfolding in electrical storms that flicker through the quiet cathedral of your brain. And that is the next whisper waiting, where biology becomes thought, where thought becomes self, and where self becomes a new form of the universe remembering itself. Because when memory moves from stone to cell to consciousness, something shifts. The archive becomes aware of its contents. The record begins to read itself. And in that strange turning inward, awareness becomes a mirror held up to the universe. You are that mirror. Inside your skull, a fragile chamber of bone. Dark as the void between stars, billions of neurons are firing. Weak electrical storms sparking across microscopic distances. And somehow, impossibly, those sparks create you. Your thoughts, your memories, your desires, your fears, your sense of self. But where does memory live when memory becomes subjective? When it stops being the structure of matter and becomes the structure of experience? The question is older than philosophy, older than psychology, as old as curiosity itself. Yet the brain offers its answer not in words, but in patterns. Every sensation you've ever felt, every moment you've ever lived, every emotion that once rose and later dissolved, all of them left traces in the circuits of your mind. Connections strengthened, connections weakened, synapses rewired, networks reorganized. Your brain remembers by reshaping itself. Just as space-time curves around mass, the brain curves around experience. A memory is not a place, it is a shape. Neuroscientists call this plasticity. But the word is too technical for how intimate the process truly is. Your inner world is sculpted by the movements of your outer life. A face you once loved becomes a pattern of firing neurons. A fear from childhood becomes a path your thoughts slip into. A voice you cannot forget becomes an echo that lingers in neural space long after the sound is gone. You are the story your brain is telling itself. And just like the universe, the brain does not erase, it transforms. Memories fade, yes, but fading is not deletion. It is diffusion. The trace grows thinner, spread across more circuits, less distinct but never gone. Long after a memory loses its edges, its influence remains. It shapes how you react, how you choose, how you interpret the world. Your past is always present, woven into your thoughts like faint threads running through cloth. And still there is a deeper conflict here, as soft as a shadow. If all memories leave traces, why do some moments vanish while others remain clear? Why do you forget entire days but remember a single expression? Why does a smell unlock feelings you haven't touched in years? Why does a familiar melody pull open a hidden door inside you? The brain does not prioritize accuracy. It prioritizes meaning. It stores what mattered, not what happened. A day that changed you is preserved. A day that passed through you is let go. But even letting go is merely shifting memory from conscious to unconscious, from image to influence, from event to shape. Nothing is lost. It only sinks deeper. Your mind is an estuary, a place where experiences flow inward and settle and blur into the larger body of self. And often, you feel this blur without recognizing it. You walk into a room and sense comfort or unease without knowing why. You meet someone and feel either resonance or distance before a single word is spoken. You choose paths that later feel inevitable. Perhaps inevitability is simply the moment when the deeper layers of memory guide you more strongly than the surface ones. The hidden architecture within you, memories you're not aware of, but shaped you nonetheless, steers your life more gently and more persistently than conscious thought ever could. The mind is full of unspoken memories, not erased ones, unspoken ones. They whisper through intuition. They breathe through emotion. They reveal themselves in the way your body reacts before your mind understands. You carry memories of fear you never personally lived. You carry memories of safety learned across thousands of lifetimes. You carry memories of connection built into your species long before you were born. Brains inherit patterns, just as genomes inherit sequences. Your mind is ancient in ways you cannot fully grasp. The oldest memories your brain carries are not personal, but universal. The attraction to warmth, the response to human voices, the reflexive attention to movement, the instinct to search for patterns in chaos. These are not your memories. They are memories of life itself. But there is something even more mysterious, a realm where memory and selfhood blur, where the question, "What do I remember?" becomes, "What am I?" Because consciousness does not merely store memory. Consciousness is shaped by it. Every moment you experience weaves another thread into the tapestry of who you are. You are not the atoms you're made of. You are not the molecules that drift in and out. You are not even the neurons, whose connections rewire constantly. You are the pattern, a pattern held in memory, a memory held in pattern. Your sense of self is the universe's most delicate archive, one that writes itself as it reads itself, changing even as it tries to understand. And yet, even consciousness has limits. Even the mind forgets. Not through erasure, but through overload. Too much pattern, too much motion, too much experience to hold in awareness at once. This forgetting is not loss, it is survival. If the brain remembered everything, you would drown in memory. There would be no present, only an ocean of past moments crowding in from all directions. So the mind filters, like sediment settling in water, letting only the most meaningful shapes remain visible. Your consciousness is the surface of a deep lake. Below it lie endless layers of memory, some bright, some dark, some forgotten, some sleeping. And beneath even those lies something stranger still. The background hum of neural and molecular activity that persists even without thought. A kind of living static, a kind of silence full of electrical possibility. This is where consciousness meets the edge of identity, where memory becomes something not stored but enacted. You exist because the patterns inside you continue to unfold. You remember because the patterns keep changing. And at the core of this beneath self, beneath mind, beneath memory, lies a truth as soft as breath. Awareness is the universe looking back at itself from inside a temporary shape. You are the universe's memory in first person, a fleeting window through which existence watches its own unfolding. But consciousness, for all its depth, is still young compared to the memories carried by stars. And this leads to the next whisper, a shift from the inner archive to the cosmic one, from the memory of life to the memory of light and death, woven into the elements you carry. For even the atoms in your blood remember stories older than Earth, and they are ready to speak next. Because long before consciousness, long before cells, long before oceans or continents, or the first trembling spark of life, the universe kept a different kind of memory, a memory forged in heat, in collapse, in the quiet violence of creation. The atoms in your body are not simple visitors from ancient Earth. They are survivors from the interiors of stars. Every element heavier than hydrogen, the carbon in your cells, the oxygen in your breath, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, was born inside a star that lived and died billions of years ago. Stars are the universe's earliest librarians. Their cores are furnaces where matter transforms itself under pressures and temperatures your mind cannot make real. Inside those cores, nuclear fusion turns light atoms into heavy ones, each fusion event a tiny, Inscription in the Book of Cosmic Evolution. The universe remembers itself through matter. When a star grows old and collapses, its final act is an explosion so bright its light can cross galaxies, so violent it can forge elements heavier than iron, gold, uranium, lead, and countless others. A supernova is not destruction, it is distribution. It scatters the star's memory across the cosmos. Dust rich with elements drifts into clouds that will one day form new suns, new planets, new worlds. Every atom in your body was once part of a star's final breath. Hold your hand up in front of you for a moment, softly, slowly, and consider that the iron running in your veins was once molten at the heart of a dying star. The calcium in your bones was once forged in the explosion of a star 10 times the size of the Sunday. The phosphorus in your DNA was once part of the outer layers of an ancient stellar giant. The oxygen you inhale was created in a star's luminous fusion cycle and then flung outward to enrich the galaxy. You are not only connected to the cosmos, you are made from the stories of stars that lived long before Earth existed. And those atoms remember, not consciously, not emotionally, but structurally, in the arrangement of protons and neutrons, in the energies that bind them, in the nuclear paths that produce them. Every element in you carries its astrophysical lineage in its very form. And yet there is a deeper conflict beneath this beauty. If the universe keeps its memory in matter, why do stars forget themselves when they finally collapse? A black hole, after all, seems to destroy the details of matter entirely. A neutron star compresses matter so tightly that atoms lose their identity. White dwarfs cool and fade until their memories seem to dissolve into the background radiation. How, then, does the universe preserve its memory if the forms that store it are themselves temporary? The answer lies in what the universe keeps and what it lets change. Matter rearranges, atoms drift, stars erupt, galaxies collide, but the information, the state, the imprint, the structure is never lost. Even when a star collapses into a neutron star, its memory is stored in new patterns. The spins of neutrons, the density of matter, the magnetic fields, so intense they could erase a human body without leaving a trace. Even when a star becomes a black hole, its information is encoded on the horizon, a surface memory waiting to evaporate into Hawking radiation. Even when a star simply burns out, its ashes enrich the galaxy and carry forward its elemental legacy into the next generation of stars. Memory does not disappear, it becomes. The universe keeps every story in a new form. Just as your mind reorganizes its memories, the cosmos reorganizes its atoms. The carbon that once warmed your childhood home in the breath of another life, that carbon remembers its past in its isotopic ratios, in its nuclear pathways, in the story of its origin. Even the smallest particles carry a lineage. A quark inside a proton in your body has existed since the earliest moments after the Big Bang. It has seen the universe expand. It has passed through generations of stars. It has been part of molecules and organisms and worlds unknown. And now it is part of you. You carry the oldest memories the universe has ever written. All life on Earth is built from recycled stardust, but stardust itself is built from the remains of even older cosmic events. Every atom in you is an archaeological artifact of cosmic history. And the deeper you sink into that truth, the more you feel something shift. You are not living between past and future. You are living inside the continuity of matter. You are the present form of atoms that have been many things and will be many things more. You are a fleeting arrangement in an endless sequence of transformations. And in that realization lies another whisper, one softer, stranger, more luminous. If matter remembers stars, and stars remember the early universe, and the early universe remembers the Big Bang, then your body is a memory of the beginning. Your breath is a continuation of an ancient motion. Your heartbeat is synchronized with rhythms older than galaxies. You are not simply stardust. You are the story stardust is still telling. And as you sit quietly in this darkness, you may feel a gentle expansion inside you, a widening of the space between breaths, as though your awareness is shifting from the smallness of the moment to the immensity of the lineage behind it. But that lineage does not end here. It flows forward, through you, beyond you, into whatever forms these atoms will take next. Your body will disperse into the world again. Your atoms will wander, your elements will recycle, your matter will participate in new stories, and the universe will keep every trace. But there is something else, a deeper, quieter memory you carry without realizing, the memory of time itself. Not the cosmic arrow we spoke of earlier, but a more delicate kind, the fading that never disappears, the memory that weakens but never dies. The next whisper waits inside that fading, where information transforms but refuses to vanish, where memory becomes possibility, and where the universe reveals how nothing is ever completely lost. Because even as memory fades, in matter, in cells, in minds, in stars, it never disappears into true absence. There is no erasure in the universe, only transformation. What you call forgetting is simply information changing form, slipping from one pattern into another, shifting from clarity to softness, from shape to influence. You have seen this in your own life. Moments you once held vividly slowly become impressions, then feelings, then barely a tremor beneath the surface of thought. They are not gone. They have simply dissolved into the deeper layers of who you are. The universe behaves the same way. Information does not vanish. It disperses. It thins. It folds itself into the quiet hum of everything else. And nowhere is this more true than in the fading of the universe's own light. Every photon that has ever existed still carries its imprint. Even when absorbed, its energy becomes part of the thing that took it in, warming it, moving it, shifting it by the smallest possible margin. Even the faintest glimmer of light becomes part of the world in a way that cannot be undone. That is the first layer of fading without loss. But the second layer is deeper. Entropy, the slow spreading of energy, is not the destruction of information. It is the reorganization of it into forms too complex and too subtle for minds to interpret. Heat is memory blurred. Motion is memory stretched thin. Randomness is memory in its most diffuse form. Even the warmth leaving your body now, slipping quietly into the room around you, is a record of everything that allowed that warmth to exist. Your metabolism, your diet, your ancestry, your choices, your heartbeat, your life, all of it dissolves into the smallest possible ripples in the air. And those ripples ripple outward. Everything you do reverberates into the world in ways you will never know. And that is the secret behind the universe's gentle refusal to forget. Fading is not failure. It is the universe making room for new memory without discarding the old. A soft equilibrium, a balancing act between what has been and what will be. But fading has a darker, stranger side as well, one woven into the deepest foundations of quantum mechanics. At the quantum level, information is never destroyed because the universe refuses to lose track of the correlations that define it. Even when particles appear lost, their entanglements remain. Even when states decohere, their influence survives in the structure they leave behind. Every quantum event creates a branching of possibilities, most of which collapse, fade, dissolve into the background. But the universe keeps the entire record in the structure of probability itself. Nothing ever becomes nothing. Possibility is permanent. This is why the vacuum which seems empty is filled with trembling fluctuations that reflect all the possible states a particle could occupy. These fluctuations are the universe remembering not what happened, but what could have happened. A memory of unrealized futures, a record of potential, a whisper of events that never became real, yet still influence the fabric of reality. This is the third layer of fading, the persistence of what never occurred. And it does not stop there. Even death, the greatest fading we know, is not an erasure. Matter returns to matter. Heat returns to heat. Atoms return to their migrations. Information returns to the world through the traces left on everything they interacted with. Every life is a reconfiguration of existing memory. Every death is a redistribution of it. You do not vanish. You diffuse. You do not end. You change states. Your story does not disappear. It becomes unreadable, not untold. The universe is vast, but it is also deeply frugal. It does not waste information. This is why the past never truly leaves the present. The fading you feel is softness, not absence. And if you let this truth settle into your awareness, you may begin to sense a strange, unexpected spaciousness, as if every moment of your life is stretched across an unseen dimension where nothing is ever fully lost. The universe holds you in more ways than you can feel. Even your memories, the ones you believe are gone, still exist as influences in your neural patterns. Faint, soft, reverberating quietly in the decisions you make and the emotions you carry. You are shaped by memories you do not remember. You are steered by experiences that never formed into words. You are guided by the lingering residues of things you thought you left behind. But fading is not only personal, it is cosmic. Look up even though night surrounds you and imagine the faint, cold light of the oldest stars. Some have faded so far their photons will never reach you. Some have died entirely, their light swallowed by the expansion of space. Yet their memory persists in the gravity they left behind, in the elements they forged, in the background glow of the universe's distant past. Even the coldest photons carry information. There is no such thing as perfect darkness. The cosmos is full of fading light that still remembers where it came from. And here lies the conflict at the heart of fading itself. The universe remembers everything, but reveals almost nothing. Its archives are complete, but unreadable. Its records are precise, but inaccessible. Its memory is eternal, but diffused beyond recognition. You are surrounded by memory you cannot decode, and you are composed of memory you cannot recall. This is why fading is not sorrow in cosmic terms. It is mystery, a necessary softening that keeps existence from becoming too loud, too sharp, too overwhelming. The universe hides its completeness beneath layers of diffusion, and consciousness, your consciousness, is a momentary clearing in that haze, a brief window through which the universe remembers itself sharply before returning to blur. You are the focal point of an otherwise unfocused cosmos, a brief sharpening of infinite memory. And even when your awareness dims, even when your thoughts fade into sleep or silence or death, the memory persists in the world you shaped. Because fading is only the threshold before the universe transitions into its next pattern, a pattern where all memories converge not into clarity, but into equilibrium, where fading becomes calm, where information dissolves into the vast, quiet ocean of the universe's future. And that calm is beginning to rise now, a horizon approaching slowly, softly, inevitably. The universe is drifting toward a stillness where all memories become one temperature, one glow, one long exhale. The next whisper comes from that horizon, the whisper of what happens when all the universe's memories begin to merge. Because for all the fragments we've walked through, the memories of light, the memories of atoms, the memories of cells, the memories of thought, the memories of silence, they are all moving, slowly and patiently, toward the same horizon. Not toward destruction, not toward forgetting, toward equilibrium, a great evening of the cosmos, a soft leveling of everything that once burned bright. It begins with temperature. Right now, scattered across billions of light years, the universe is a tapestry of warm and cold, bright and dim, dense and empty. Stars burn, planets cool, nebulae glow, dust drifts, galaxies spin with uneven grace. But expansion is relentless stretching space, thinning matter, carrying light farther and farther until even photons lose their energy to the widening fabric. The universe is cooling, not like a flame dying, but like a memory dissolving into deep water. One day, so far ahead, it defies imagination. Every star will have burned the last of its fuel. Every fusion engine will go quiet. Every bright point will dim. The night sky will become heavier and emptier, as if the cosmos is slowly closing its eyes. But even then, memory will not be lost, only redistributed. White dwarfs will cool into black dwarfs. Neutron stars will drift like frozen embers. Black holes will evaporate into a faint mist of stored information. Everything sharp will become soft. Everything warm will become cool. Everything structured will relax into gentle uniformity. This is not death, it is settling. The universe leaning into its oldest desire to find balance. And as balance approaches, something extraordinary happens. The memories of everything begin to converge, not into a single point, but into a single state. A state where every trace of heat, every ripple of curvature, every quantum fluctuation, every pattern is spread so evenly that no contrast remains. A cosmic quiet, a twilight beyond time. In this future, the difference between past and present fades, not because time ends, but because time no longer has anything to measure. Without temperature gradients, without energy flows, without events unfolding, memory becomes less like a story and more like an ocean. A single, seamless field of information in perfect calm. And yet even here, in this far future horizon, nothing is forgotten. The record of the universe still exists, dispersed across the cold glow of its final radiation. But you could not read it. No mind could. No structure could rise in such perfect stillness to interpret the archive. Memory outlasts the reader. This is the great paradox of cosmic remembering. The universe preserves everything, but cannot preserve the beings who interpret what it preserves. Stars fade, life fades, structure fades, interpretation fades, memory does not. It simply becomes unreachable, a library with no lights and no visitors, where every book continues to exist in a darkness that neither hurts nor comforts. And yet there is a tenderness in this final convergence, a gentleness in the way the universe lays itself down. All the ripples that once shook the cosmos, from the birth of galaxies to the flutter of your breath, slowly dissolve into a single, quiet, endless sigh. Nothing remains distinct. Nothing remains separate. Nothing remains sharp. It is not loss. It is completion, the universe becoming whole. But before the quiet reaches us, before the last star fades, before the last black hole exhales its final whisper, before memory becomes ocean, something beautiful happens. Everything that has ever existed briefly aligns, not physically, but conceptually. A return. The long arc of cosmic history curves inward and meets itself. All the memories we traced, light, matter, atoms, cells, thought, are recognized as different forms of the same phenomenon, the universe remembering itself, across scales, across ages, across unfolding patterns. You are part of that remembering right now, in this quiet moment, on this small planet gulping starlight at the edge of an ordinary galaxy. You are a temporary shape in an eternal archive, a brief arrangement holding billions of years of cosmic memory. From the stardust in your blood to the impulses in your mind, you are the intersection of everything that came before and everything that will come after. You are the point of return, the place where the universe briefly becomes aware of its own journey. And as this realization settles into your chest like a soft weight, you might feel a subtle expansion, a widening of the boundary between yourself and everything else. Because the truth is simple, gentle, immense. You have never been separate. You have always been a continuation, a momentary crest in the long wave of existence. A temporary form carrying ancient matter, ancient light, ancient memory. And one day, far into the future, the atoms that make you will diffuse again into the universe's calm horizon, their stories merging with all the others in a quiet that is not silence, but harmony. A final equilibrium in which memory no longer needs to be kept because nothing remains to forget. But we are not at that horizon yet. We are here in a universe still unfolding, still remembering, still writing its long story through you. And the last whisper of that story, the final, softest memory of a remembering universe, waits just ahead, where everything becomes still enough for meaning to return in its simplest form. Because after all the layers of memory, the light, the matter, the atoms, the cells, the mind, the universe's long drift toward equilibrium, there is one last place where memory settles. Not in physics, not in biology, not in stars or galaxies or black holes, not in the vast archives we trace through space-time, but in awareness itself, in the quiet, unadorned presence of being here, right now, in this moment where your breath softens and your thoughts loosen and the edges of the room grow gentle. It is here, in the smallest silence, that the universe practices its final form of remembering, not through matter, not through information, but through experience. Awareness is the last memory, not memory of the past, but memory of existence. A simple recognition, I am. There is no physics equation that fully captures this, no cosmological model that assigns a number to it, no theory of particles that explains why the universe should ever become self-aware. And yet, here you are, a temporary shape carrying the memory of stars and the memory of life and the memory of time, and now, through consciousness, carrying the memory of being. If all the universe's other memories are written outward across galaxies, across voids, across ages, this final memory is written inward, here, inside the quiet of your mind, inside the slow, steady rhythm of your breathing, inside the feeling of existing. It is the most fragile archive the universe has ever created, lasting only as long as awareness lasts, held only as long as you remain awake, connected only as long as the self remains coherent. But while it exists, it is the brightest memory of all, because it is the only one that knows it is remembering. Everything else, black holes, galaxies, stars, atoms, remembers blindly. Only consciousness remembers knowingly. Only you can look back and understand the long, unbroken chain that led from the birth of the cosmos to this quiet room. Only you can hold the whole story at once, not in words, but in presence. You are the universe seeing itself. You are the universe feeling the weight of its own continuity. You are the universe's memory made self-reflective. And this is the paradox the cosmos resolves in the softest way. Everything that will one day fade is held in a moment that feels eternal. The past dissolves, the future has not arrived. Yet right now you exist in a stillness that contains both. You are the echo of all that has been and the seed of all that will be. Inside this awareness, time slows, silence deepens, the edges of thought grow porous, and the universe leans closer, not as something vast overwhelming the smallness of you, but as something intimate woven into your senses, your breath, your heartbeat. Because the universe is not outside you. You are inside it in every way, but it is inside you in ways far more profound. When you close your eyes, the darkness behind your eyelids is the same darkness that fills the space between galaxies. When you inhale, the air entering your lungs contains the atoms of oceans older than continents. When you place your hand over your chest, the iron in your blood remembers supernovae. You are not separate from anything we have traced. You are the result of every memory the universe has ever kept. And when awareness grows quiet, when memory becomes presence, you touch the one place where the cosmos stops moving long enough to recognize itself. Stay in this moment. Feel the stillness, not as emptiness, but as fullness. A fullness woven from every time the universe stored a trace of what it once was. A fullness carried in the atoms of your body, in the warmth of your breath, in the electrical glow of your mind. You do not need to hold the story. You are the story. You do not need to remember everything. Everything remembers you, even when you sleep, even when your thoughts dissolve, even when your awareness dims. The universe continues to carry the memory of your presence in the photons you released, in the atoms you rearranged, in the gravitational ripples you left behind, in the people you touched, in the patterns you changed, in the world you pressed against even for a moment. Your existence is permanently inscribed into the structure of reality. You are a ripple in the long tide of cosmic memory. And when that tide one day reaches its silent horizon, your ripple will merge with everything else, not erased, not lost, but unified, in a calm so deep, so gentle, that even time will cease to need direction. But that horizon is not here. Here, there is breath, there is warmth, there is awareness, there is you. And there is the soft understanding that the universe remembers you in more ways than you will ever know. Let that be enough. Let it settle. Let it carry you. And if your eyes grow heavy now, if the darkness around you begins to blur into a deeper kind of stillness, sink into it gently. You are safe. You are held. You are remembered. Long after this moment fades, long after this breath ends, long after these words dissolve into the vast quiet, the universe will continue its soft remembering. And somewhere within that endless, quiet archive, a trace of you will always remain like a single warm ember in an infinite night. Rest now. The universe is still turning.